Good evening, everyone, and I'd like to welcome you and call to order our Lucan BIddulph Council meeting for Tuesday, October the 1st. I would like to acknowledge that I am an ally of Indigenous peoples. The township of Lucan BIddulph is located on the treaty and traditional territory and ancestral lands of many Indigenous peoples and is covered by several Upper Canada treaties. We recognize and celebrate the contributions of Indigenous communities in our shared cultural heritage. We recognize the unique role that Indigenous peoples have in the development of our communities. The contribution of these communities ensure the sharing of unique perspectives and traditional knowledge. The township recognizes the importance of consulting with our Indigenous neighbors in an effort to build constructive, cooperative relationships through meaningful engagement to inform our decision-making and to build partnership. We acknowledge historic and ongoing injustices that Indigenous peoples endure in Canada, and we affirm our commitment to honoring Indigenous voices, nations, and cultures, and to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Deputy Mayor Mander.
Yeah, I, Dave Manders, hereby make a declaration of pecuniary interest with respect to agenda item number 6.1. Item titled Meeting to Consider Drainage Report Whitfield Drain 2024 on the agenda dated October 1st, 2024. I am an assessed property owner included on the Whitfield Drain 2024 Drainage Report dated August 30th, 2024.
Thank you very much. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and it's an opportunity to raise awareness about the impact of breast cancer, to celebrate the progress made against the disease and support those affected by it. Breast cancer is the most common cancer in Canadian women, affecting around 1 in 8. In 2024, it is projected that more than 360,000 people will be diagnosed with breast cancer in Canada. The more we know, the sooner we can end breast cancer. Advancements in early detection, personalized treatment, and support continue to increase the chances of survival. As with most cancers, when caught in its earliest localized stages, the 5-year relative survival rate for breast cancer is 99%. With these advancements, we can imagine the day that breast cancer becomes an illness, not a life-threatening disease. As always, you are your strongest health advocate. Have conversations with your healthcare provider. Do your research to learn about your breast health. Get a mammogram if you have never had one. Take a friend to a mammogram. Support those you know who are traveling a breast cancer journey. While breast cancer is predominantly a women's health issue, did you know that every year in Canada, approximately 220 men are diagnosed with breast cancer? And of those 220, over a quarter will pass from this disease. That is a higher percentage than when found in women. Take some time this month to learn about the importance of breast cancer prevention, screening, detection, and treatment efforts. There are many worthy causes conducting important research that you can donate to if you are able, but conversations and education are just as important. And to bring awareness to breast cancer, pink looks good on everyone. So we do need to go into a public meeting tonight, and that is to review the engineer's report for the Whitfield Drain. And I would ask for a mover and a seconder to move us into that public meeting at 6 minutes after 6. Councillor Regan and Councillor Hodgins, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So at this time, I am going to turn the mic over to Mike DeVos from Spreet Associates to give us an overview of the work that is required for the drain that we will be discussing tonight. Mike.
Thank you. The report before you is a report that was prepared in accordance with Section 78 of the Drainage Act, which is for repair and or improvement to an existing municipal drain. And that is the Whitfield Drain. It was originally, the last report would have been 1983. So at that time, there would have been work on the open channel as well as culverts that were constructed. One of the culverts that was constructed is the majority of this project. So we are looking to replace the existing culvert that would be in the area of Dutchess and Maple. It's a access to an existing residential property. And due to concerns with erosion and as well age, we are looking to suggest to replace that particular culvert as well as protect, there's bends in that area and the water's turning on angles. And so in that particular area, we're looking at adding erosion control protection, both on the ends of the culvert and as well in an area just upstream of the culvert to protect from erosion that's occurring in the channel. We did provide a provision for future additions of some erosion control from that point up to Saintsbury, so that if it was done in the future, you don't need a new engineer's report. It could be done through this report as future work for erosion control. If there's improvements that would be requested that's beyond that, a new report would be required. Only maintenance is typically done without a new report. So because this is not considered straight maintenance, we are replacing it with something that is different than what was there originally. It did require a new report. And the report itself, being 1983, was outdated as far as assessments go. So we did have to provide an updated schedule of assessment. Under the Drainage Act, it is a user pay system, so all properties that would have water that could or do get into the drain are liable to contribute financially towards a portion of the work. There are different types of assessment. Mostly, I would say benefit and outlet are the two regular types that you would see. Properties that would benefit from the work are going to be charged benefit, and that in this particular case, it's only two. It would be the property with the culvert on it and Maple Street. So there's two benefiting properties. All the other properties are just outlet for their water to use that system. They would have contributed in 1983 and they have to contribute now. We were requested to include the assessments in the urban area as a block. So instead of individually listing all of the properties individually, we have combined them into a block assessment so that it's a bit more easier administratively for the municipality to distribute the cost. As well as the cost to prepare the report itself from our engineering standpoint. Some of the erosion work that would be done is using quarry stone and blanket to protect the banks as the water is trying to turn corners and go around bends. So I think at that point I would stop and open up to questions.
That's great. Thank you very much for that, Mike. So at this time, I will open it up to any affected landowners that want to ask any questions or provide any comment. I would ask you to come up to the same desk, sit beside Mike, and turn the microphone on and state your name and your address, and then pose your question. So I would look, you can raise your hand, and anybody else has? Yep. Do you want to go first? Oh, yes.
Well, the first question I have is how much,
Just-
do you know how much volume?
I just,
Oh,
no, it's on. It was on.
yeah, it was on.
But-
Well, you want me to talk much closer?
No, you should be fine. Just your name and your address.
Oh, sorry, Wayne Price, 115 Market Street, Lucan. The first question I might have is, do we know how much volume ran in that drain? Now, do we know that? And how much more do you think that this money's gonna solve that or make? I don't know if that's part of engineer stuff or.
Without getting specific numbers, the existing culvert that is there was designed close to a 1 in 5 year return event. There are different standards and different levels of design that can be used to design pipes, culverts, and open channels. And in this case, we analyzed the existing one. We had conversations with the affected parties about the I guess the efficiency of the existing one, if it was good enough, if there was flooding concerns that were already occurring there, and the indication was no, that flooding wasn't necessarily the concern here. The concern was the erosion on the ends, and also when we started looking at it to fix just the ends for a culvert that's over 40 years old, you're looking at the lifespan of what the new work would be versus if you did part of it versus doing the whole thing. So we contemplated both scenarios, one just extending the culvert that was there to fix the erosion because the ends are failing. So the protection on the ends of the pipes is what the biggest problem is. And so we looked at potentially just extending the pipes on both ends, but due to the amount of cost that you're spending and then how much cost you might have to spend down the road in a shorter period of time, it was decided just to replace the pipe. So the cost savings versus what you'd end up having to spend later, it just didn't, it wasn't there. So this isn't necessarily intended to fix flooding. It is to fix a culvert as well as erosion.
Okay, so, well, basically my way of thinking, I mean, when it comes to volume, we can keep it simple for guys like me, but I like to me, it's crazy. Everything I'm gonna say is gonna cost us more money, okay? So if you don't want to hear that, go home now. But to me, it's throwing away money for a bigger problem because, and wouldn't it have been smarter to ask some of us upstream? I guess it would be, yes, about our flooding problems. Now, like 100-year rains don't count when it comes to insurance and life expectancy of stuff and everything else, because that's what they call it. So like, I should be dead now. I shouldn't have seen 200-year rains, okay? I should have saw one 15 years ago, and that should have been it. But I have what I considered a perfectly drained house, but yet $50,000 later the last time, this time if I wasn't home, would have been the same thing for a flood, because that drain is not handling the volume of a sudden rush of water through basically the whole town, the way the system's set up. And we must have, more problems than that. I mean, so spend 10 on that now, but we need to spend more to solve what's really the problem. And that could be, I mean, do you figure this will stop sudden rushes and what we just went through a month ago? And what we're going through in some areas, actually, we have backyard flooding all the time in any kind of heavy rains. That I now, when I bought I didn't have no paperwork said I'm in a floodplain. And I don't know if anybody else on Market Street, which is here, they can tell me the same thing, but it never said anything about me being in a floodplain. But I'm at the bottom of a major problem just across that creek on Market Street. And like I say, right through my lot, there's a perfectly good Middlesex drain that's been plugged going into that river, but that's also to my detriment where the water got out of that creek and back it up and into my house and my neighbor's house and the one across. And I don't know, if I don't see everybody here that had a flood, but there was a ton of flooding because of that rain. And in that area alone, I just know of the 3.
Yes, I can say that the intention of this project is not to reduce flooding. There is the existing Whitfield drain, which is an open channel that's there. If people feel that there is maintenance, there is a design to it. Typically, an open channel would be designed somewhere in the range of a 1 and 2 year rain event to a 1 and 5 year rain event. I believe, and I don't have the particular numbers for the rain event that Lucan experienced at that point in time, but it would have been significantly larger than the intended design. So these systems aren't designed to handle those sort of rain events. So there would be flooding during rain events of that magnitude. If you want to reduce flooding, you would have to probably go through a new engineer's report or at least engage an engineer to investigate and come up with that design. That would change the system. So you have multiple road culverts. So you have multiple culverts that go underneath roads that would probably have to get altered because they would most likely be designed in a similar manner. So, and then the ditch itself. So the open channel is typically a trapezoid. So has sloped sides with a flat bottom, or a small variation of that. And so to get more capacity to hold larger rain events, you would probably need to excavate that larger. Is there maintenance there that might be done that could help things? It's possible. I would say that brush in terms of vegetation, so vegetation growing on the slopes of a channel will reduce the capacity of that channel, so it won't function as good as what it would be if it was clear of the vegetation. So doing maintenance is something that could be done by the municipality if it's warranted, if there's enough vegetation there that they think it's causing an issue and that it should be done, then that sort of thing as maintenance is one thing that would help reduce flooding, is to get that ditch clean and of the vegetation on the slopes. So that's something that could be investigated and done through maintenance. But if you're looking at making improvements and reducing flooding, you would most likely have to make improvements. I could say that, you know, it is possible that unknown to the municipality, there could be something in the channel that's reducing its capacity that wasn't part of the original drain. And sometimes landowners don't know that they're not allowed to put something in the channel, and you could investigate that. You could go and walk along the channel and do a visual inspection to determine if there's anything in there physically that's been put in there that could be causing the channel not to function as it was designed. So there are a few things you could check and do that would make sure that it's functioning to the way that it was designed. But to say that you're going to get these large rain events accommodated in the channel and not have flooding outside of the channel would require larger improvements.
Now, I can't prove it by no means, but one thing this map I brought up before was lacking was the two retention ponds that are in the area that I can't help but feel that, okay, so luckily I was home that day. So, I mean, it wasn't raining that hard. I looked in drains and stuff. They didn't look that bad. It was just a rush. To me, almost like it's caused by, okay, the buildup up here. Well, where do those retention ponds drain into? That same drain? Do they not? That's what I was told they did anyways. I can't quote my sources, but sort of that kind of information, you can clarify me on it if I'm wrong. And that's just part of the bigger problem. When you get that kind of thing, it's all draining this. Yeah, it'd be nice to know on an everyday basis that's going to, but I haven't had a problem on an everyday basis when it comes to basement flooding, and I don't think nobody else has in there. So this isn't solving the bigger thing, like I said, about an upgrowing. And another big question is the timing of this seems weird to me, about the fact that we just happen to be okay. And now I could be wrong about that. No, that's rumor on the street. Okay, in a subdivision in the area that all of a sudden is going to add to the problems with water retention, water going away. And again, are we wasting money there? Because something need to be bigger, because once you add how many more houses, how much more water is going to be draining right across that road and into our area again. And that's all we did was throw some money away on something that small. Again, like I said, it's going to cost us money, the ideas, but I feel it's a waste. Need more studies, I think, to look at the existing larger problem. When you talk about bush and drains, I can walk through town and point out many drains that are overgrown and have been overgrown for a long time in different areas. Over at the park, for instance, Optimus Park there. It's got trees growing out of it and everything else. What's that doing to the drainage? Now, that's not helping me or this issue, but just as an example. And I think we've been overlooking the drainage of the whole town. I mean, when you've got this whole section coming right into town, every time you get a big rain, it has a whole lot of houses and a whole small pipes that can't take it away, sort of ideas. To me, this looked like. And like I said, back to the question of the subdivision, if that's a goal, There's other items about that one. We'll leave it alone for now. But, yeah, that's gonna add even more. And to me, the creek is doing good right now for the majority of us. I don't think anybody has complaints on a regular basis. But when we really need it, it's causing a problem. So
I can make a general comment about stormwater management facilities. These, you're referring to them as ponds. The technical term would be a facility. It can consist of different things. There's different ways of having stormwater management, but the intention of these facilities are to capture the larger volumes of water that comes off of roofs, driveways, and roads that weren't there before. So they capture the water and they release it slowly so that you're not creating more flow post the construction of the subdivision versus what was there pre-construction. One thing that would occur, and I caution people, is that it takes time for that pond to empty. So once that pond gets full, in a big rain event, that pond will fill up. It has to empty. And so what you'll see is you may see some quote elevated flows for longer periods of time, but you should not see more peak flow, more the height of the flooding should not be higher than it is at any one time. That's the way that the math is done when the engineers will design these things. And then the engineers for the subdivisions submit that information to the municipality, and then the municipality will peer review that, and they do get approved. So there is design and checks to those developments when they occur to try and ensure that they're not going to make the flooding worse downstream of that point.
but I was up and around that day outside looking at drains before I came in to find the water pouring into my house. The newest drains on my street, I would say minimal water. I haven't seen any higher than in a normal rain. The one that's on the corner of my lot, again, I've seen it that high all the time. And within minutes, it still didn't really overflow. It just all backed up. Boom. To me, like, again, back to my scenario theory, whatever, but it didn't start raining any harder neither than it had been for a few hours neither, to explain it to me why all of a sudden, and the new ones never did. So I don't know what's going on with the drainage on my street period though, that it didn't overflow them. They didn't come up and over the streets like you would have imagined, and needed a big one in my corner, which just really, I'm the only, there may be other neighbors hooked into it. I don't know, but it goes out into the creek, and instantly that creek was over that pipe and back pushing it. And it's what flooded the neighbors like our houses in the neighborhood sort of thing. So like I said, I'll still stick to the same theory. Where did the rush come from? I still don't think. And that's what I said. I don't have access to those ponds. That was my next move over there until I walked in the door and saw the water coming in to see, is it coming over, and is it coming over fast, or where is it coming from? Because it's still, like I say, it was only in that creek. It wasn't even in the street drains and stuff. Usually it comes up in the corner of mine, but it just come up. But that was a smaller one than 13 years ago, mind you, too, because it was flooded the whole corner of my lot and the corner of my neighbor's lot in that big rain. But I mean, again, I still back to me, to turn around and spend some money on this and not the other. I mean, all I can do is keep thinking, like I say, is there another reason? Is the timing? All of a sudden, this lot's gonna need more drainage or whatever, so now we're taking care of it? Or maybe he should be paying for it and all the drainage in the area.
I could maybe take a minute to respond before I get confused on the different issues, because there are different issues here.
Yeah.
Well, there's just different, there are different things, and the timing, it must be coincidental. This request came from the particular landowners with the culvert. So it was failure of an existing system. That was a slow process. Back in the day, they used sack concrete end walls. And those end walls do not last as long as what maybe some other types of walls do, but that was the way that they would build them. That was a common practice, and it's unsafe now for the particular landowners, and that's what was driving it. You know, what's going on upstream, the landowners indicated that they did not have a flooding concern in that area, that the culvert was functioning the way that they would expect it to. If particular landowners have issues, if you would like the municipality to investigate the Whitfield from a maintenance standpoint or an improvement standpoint, that can be done, but it would be done, in my view, outside of this report. This report is dealing strictly with issues that are different than the issues that I'm hearing you're describing. You're describing flooding issues and performance issues, which is different. You know, the only one that might be linked is your point to, do we make the culvert bigger? Is that what,
Yeah.
if I'm hearing that correct?
That
That
is.
is,
It should be
yeah.
larger, what we're,
Yeah.
again, instead of spending
Yeah.
money, you start making
Yeah.
that larger, well, that means you didn't
Yeah.
make that large enough.
Yeah, and we did not have any indication that what was there was not sufficient. There is a culvert a very short distance downstream that goes across the intersection. So, you know, these culverts aren't different. That one's been there quite a while as well. So it's at the corner of Maple and
All down the other way.
Maple and
Yeah.
Dutchess right here. It goes across the corner.
But we also in that area still have water problems right in here.
Yeah, and if
Constantly.
there's individual flooding problems in that particular area, the municipality can, you know, look into those concerns. If it's municipal drain stuff, then it would be done through that, and if it's not, then the municipality.
So, Mr. Price, I'm going to get Jeff to add some commentary now, but I would suggest, is there anything else that you haven't brought up yet? I just know that there's a number of other people that want to say something.
Well, other than the fact that I have to pay for this when it's been left since too late, really. What I'm saying is, with the maintenance hasn't been being kept up with, so now all of a sudden you want it to pay for me. I mean, I'm still worried about the same kind of letter coming for, again, the new subdivision on sewer systems, because we're going over sewer systems, and I already paid once in my lifetime. So I gotta be honest with you, that's the back of the head.
Yep, understandable.
Dollars.
Yeah, no, understandable.
I can't just keep dishing money out for something I already paid for. And again, there's a drainage mismanagement or my agreement sort of thing. Again, with all the subdivisions happening, I can't help it.
Okay.
I think
No.
that's what's causing it. Are we not billing these people enough to take care of the problem, so it doesn't go downriver to the rest of us?
Your comments have been taken, so they'll form part of the minutes. And I will ask Jeff to pipe into this conversation at this point.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. And this goes to the whole group, that if we do have some sort of other erosion, we have other sort of concerns on the Whitfield drain, I'd be more than happy to talk to any one of you about it, and we can come out and take a look at it. In this case, this reconstruction project here on this culvert was very limited to a concern of at the corner of Maple and Dutchess. That doesn't mean we can't continue this and add to the, you know, or look into another more maintenance or more improvement to the Whitfield drain. So and I did talk to another landowner that lives off the Market Street with some concern of some boards that had fallen down. These are the sort of things that I'd like to hear about and we can look into. It's just at this time, this one household is dependent on this laneway to have access to his house, as well as the erosion is working his way towards his foundation. So there is a need to get this corrected sooner than later, but that doesn't mean we can't look at other items on the Whitfield drain, such as correcting some of the maintenance problems. We've started the something similar on the Bend drain, which runs out to the southeast. We had a couple of residents come in and were concerned about flows and sediment in that. And we're working on a report there to look at maintenance and improvements to the Bend drain. So I think I take it very seriously, and I would be more than glad to look into anybody's concerns on the Whitfield drain.
Thanks. Yeah.
My interest here, where reality is that if we do that work that close to another problem, again, could end up being a waste of money when both problems could be solved when you're in the neighborhood. This is why I say that, like, if that goes to, this maybe shouldn't go forward until we have more study.
Yeah, and Madam Mayor, as we talked with the landowner at the time there was not a concern of flooding at this location. So if we're talking about reconstructing the whole Whitfield drain, that's another, like, that would be a project that would be beyond slowing this one down, because that would take years. Mike, am I speaking out of context? If we had to go to that extent that we're going to redo the whole Whitfield drain all the way through Lucan, I think that would take much more consideration of than what we're dealing with right here, because we do have an issue with this landowner's laneway.
Well, there's, again, there's Middlesex drain running right through my lot.
Okay.
That has now been left vacant. But you tie those two together, okay, so now you're gonna get some more volume again too. Back to, I'm worried about this not being big enough for the volume that's gonna be coming over the next little while from both subdivision and already that is being missed in our backyards. I mean,
Okay.
the drain's right there. I mean, we're continually told that we're not
So-
gonna look into it. We're not.
So, Mr. Price, I think Jeff has heard your comments and we'll think about next steps as the meeting goes on. Okay. Who else would like to come up? Okay.
Hi, I'm Rita Murphy. I'm at 122 Alice Street. My question should hopefully be much more straightforward. My question is related to the boundary of the drain. I don't think I understand how that is determined. So just to clarify, we're right here on the edge of it. This is our property here. Oh, sorry. Right there, those two little lots there. And I can see that's the work that you're going to be doing is back here. So that's my question. Is this a flood zone, or, like, I was just surprised to see this gray area runs directly under our property and I didn't know what that meant.
Yes, the dark line, the dashed line is the actual limit of which water, the direction of the flow. Either would go, the water on the one side would flow towards this drain and through the culvert, and water that would land that's on the other side that's not shaded does not go towards it. So that's the high peak.
Which is where we are in the
Yeah.
street, is at the high peak.
So-
So that's why we're
so-
included.
And so if you're on the side where water would leave your property and go towards this drain,
That's why we're included.
That's why you're
That was
included.
all my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yes. Since you're on Alice Street. I don't want to knock anybody on Alice Street. You're higher than Market Street. Okay. Dave Barr, 121 Market Street. Yeah, our problem is we have water in our backyard. I know that has nothing to do with the Whitfield drain, but I want to take this opportunity to say, in the last 6 years, I've burned out 3 sump pumps that I've installed in my backyard just to get rid of the water that's coming from higher up. Not blaming people on Alice Street, they're higher up. You can't do anything about it. But about 5 years ago, we talked to John Riddle, great guy, and he said, the town has nothing to do with public or personal property. We pay taxes. I think you do have something to do with personal property. George Wood, George Jeanette, Dave Rutherford, ourselves, Kathy McFarland. We have a strip of land, and when we get a heavy rain, it's a swamp. Like, I mean, I have to put my boots on to go out and check the sump pump, pull it back out, take the leaves out of it, and sometimes I have to switch it with another sump pump that I have that I know works. And I'm getting really tired of it. And not to mention the hydro I've gone through to run it, it goes for it goes like for a week at a time, 2 weeks at a time in a heavy rain. So somehow the water should be taken care of in our backyards out to a storm sewer. Now in the storm sewers, I've been a builder for a long time, but I still have to ask, the Whitfield drain has nothing to do with storm sewers. Storm sewers are a separate identity. Is that correct? Are they lower?
They are physically a different
Right.
entity. The storm sewers are pipes that are usually owned and operated by the municipality as infrastructure. A municipal drain is a different type of infrastructure that was constructed under the Drainage Act. So it's different legislation.
Right.
There's the Ontario Provincial Drainage Act, which allows for the construction of either a ditch or a piping, could be storm sewers. If that's the way that the landowners want it constructed, they could use the Drainage Act to have piping constructed. And in some situations, it is used. It's just a different mechanism for creating it and maintaining it. This particular open channel, because it has such a large area upstream outside of Lucan, and initially Lucan and BIddulph were separate municipalities.
Mhm.
So you had inter-boundary issues to deal with. So the Drainage Act was used to construct that particular drain, and it's still in place. Under the Drainage Act, there are different things that are established. There is right-of-way that's established so that the municipality can enter private land to maintain drains. So there would be a working space beside the Whitfield drain where the municipality can bring in equipment to maintain it. So that's one benefit of using the Drainage Act, is it establishes that right-of-way without having to buy land or creating easements and things like that in negotiations. The Drainage Act is a process. It's a public process that gets input from landowners, and it goes through the process of getting input from everybody and listening to the concerns and doing what they can to establish this entity. Storm sewers are usually not using the Drainage Act, but it could be, and some are. It just depends on the reason and how they were constructed.
The Whitfield drain is like an open drain. Storm sewers are closed. They're
Correct.
underground. Okay. We watched the road repair being done about 12 years ago or 15 years ago. I can't remember when. And I stood with the engineer in our driveway several times, talked to him, very friendly. And I thought the storm sewer was being continued. After the whole thing is paved and all that, we find out there's still an outlet down in front of Georgia Wood and another one down in front of the hydro. By the way, the Ontario Hydro has built up their property so high to put the transformers up high so they don't get flooded. And they've blocked off any drainage that the five of us have going that way. So they're part of the problem too. And we pay our hydro bill, I think. Linda, we paid our hydro bill this month. Okay. So I'd like to see the town help us out. That's all I ask.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And I'm willing to do some hand digging if I have to. I've done that around the Scout Guide Hall, by the way. But anyways, I was a little disappointed when the storm sewer was not continued, and then we could have connected to it underground, and I would have
So
had,
that's a different issue.
I know it's a different issue, but I had to bring it up while we had
Yep,
an
no,
audience.
appreciate that.
Okay.
Yep,
I'll be brief. Goodbye.
okay, thanks, Mr. Barr. Anybody else to make?
Out of town, or is this for town?
This is for the Whitfield drain in town. Okay, but there are assessments also. The host. Is she assessed? Might,
I have the Austin drain problem.
okay, all right. We'll put you, we'll come back to you, okay? Okay, okay. Who else wanted to? Okay, yep, come on up.
Thank you. My name is Rob Jean. I live at 117 Alice Street. And my wife and I received a notice. And what I'm concerned about is how does this affect me and why am I, or unless I'm not wrong, why am I being asked to pay?
Okay, so Jeff, do you want to take how a municipal drain is assessed? Or I don't know who wants to take that.
According to the letter that I got, it said we're a part of the watershed.
Mhm.
Okay, now, I don't understand how this affects me and why am I being, or is everybody in Lucan being asked to pay?
Maybe Mike, maybe just before, I'll just do a quick, so Alice Street, depending on where you are on Alice Street, there is a break point, but there is the storm water on the tape breaks towards Saintsbury. And that water goes to Saintsbury and then it goes down to Market Street. That's just the lay of the land. So as your water then makes its way to the Whitfield via either through the slope of the land or through the storm mains on Alice Street. That's where the watershed definition comes in. So I'll let Mike take it from there. That's just what's.
Yes, under the Drainage Act, any property that would have water that potentially either now leaves the property and gets into the drain or could get into the drain through natural lay of the land, has to contribute financially towards the project. In 1983, there was a boundary limit that was established saying here was the tributary area.
Okay,
So if you have water, I mean, it might be indirect, you might be several streets away. There could be pipes in between. It could be overland flow. It could be some groundwater seepage as well. But if the water gets to that drain from your property, then under the Drainage Act, you are an assessed party.
okay, so before they tore the street up on Alice Street, my house was hooked up to a storm drain that was never capped and water constantly poured into my basement 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And it cost me $22,000 to fix it. And John Riddle and an engineer came to the house and put a scope and he ran it right out into the middle of the street. And it constantly poured into my basement. And it cost me $22,000 to fix it. Because nobody capped it.
It's, these things are possible. What we're looking at is the lay of the land
Okay,
and where the water goes. If you think that water from your property does not get into the Whitfield drain, then you let me know and then we would investigate that
Okay.
physically.
I would appreciate that.
Because if, again, this was established in 1983, we have not gone back and reinvestigated
Right,
that tributary area.
okay,
It's based on documentation that was already done. If you think that there's something that's not correct and your water's not getting to the Whitfield drain, then we can look at it. And what I would say, if there's an adjustment, typically that's done for the quarter revision. Tonight's meeting is dealing with the design and the construction.
okay,
So the consideration meeting deals with that. The second meeting is called the quarter revision. So if you feel that the assessment to that property is unfair and not appropriate, and we should be moving numbers around, I mean, the numbers are established. You don't change the numbers, the total. But if you think your property is unfair in relation to a different property, then you can make that complaint at that time. And what I'm hearing is if you think your water from your property is not getting into this drain, we can make that correction before the next meeting.
okay. I would appreciate that.
Yeah, maybe you could just
Yep.
wait after the meeting and I can get the
Absolutely.
particulars on your property.
All right,
Okay.
Both with hydro behind, they changed the drainage of the land. They raised it up quite a bit. There used to be a huge puddle back there all the time. That's been fine. And so the same when they dug all of our street up, they had the construction vehicles parked there on between. And I think most of the water now drains onto the front of our street versus behind.
right, because
And then it goes down the street, going actually the opposite way, down towards Main Street now. That's just my observation of the heavier ones.
Okay, maybe if you could just stick around too till after I can.
where my house is on
Okay.
like 117 Alice Street, Mark Hewitt is beside us and the lady that's beside him, her house is constantly flooded. Every time it rains. So, and where does that water go?
Yeah, eventually it's gonna continue
How many
downstream. It's
people are
just
gonna
what-
be affected by this financially?
Financially, anybody within that line that's on that map, any property within that area is affected financially.
I would appreciate it if you come with me.
Just to repeat, the front of Alice Street does go to Sainsbury, and then Sainsbury goes into the Whitfield.
It's going the other way towards Main Street, like we're right at the peak.
You're right at the peak, yeah. So your house would be on the boundary, so you could inquire exactly where that peak
And we may
is.
have to come out in the field and physically take measurements and
and see.
confirm that peak.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
does it
But
go
I know-
this way or does it go that way?
Yeah.
And that's something we can do.
but
If
I
you
know
think-
from
if
the
you think that there
design,
could be an error or
Yep.
something that's not correct anymore and was changed in the past.
Yeah.
That could be confirmed.
We just
Okay.
put an addition on the back of our house, and when they dug it up, there was drain tile
Okay.
everywhere, clay drain tile. Everywhere, and I mean, it was running back towards the old train track was on the back of our property. And there was drain tile everywhere. Like, where's it coming from?
So we can, you can follow up
Okay,
after the
that's fine.
meeting
I
and,
appreciate
yeah,
that.
yeah, okay,
All right.
all right, thank you. Does anybody else have any commentary at this point? Yep, come on up.
My name's Hans Kranz. I live in 147 Spencer. This is a small problem, but I've got an exemption. I live at 147. New subdivision. My backyard floods every time there's rain, as Jeff knows. As Jeff also knows, we don't have a pipe in our backyard that goes anywhere. To drain 4 houses that were built, there's no pipe in the ground to drain anything. So I'm asking for an exemption on the $35 or whatever it's gonna cost.
Hey. At.
yeah.
I don't have a drain.
Yeah, so this meeting is for the report itself. We can discuss
Well, no,
the
this
drain, but
discusses this, Jeff. The thing is, everybody that's affected by this drain problem going to the culvert is gonna get a share of paying for it. Well, I don't have a share because I don't have anything draining towards it.
So
Hear me? Get it, we.
Oh, yeah.
this could be just, that could be brought up at the Court of
We
Revision,
can look
right?
into that.
Yeah,
Well,
but
So-
everybody's got a pipe in the
so-
subdivision but us.
So as Mike just stated, this meeting has to do with the design and the engineering of the drain. The next meeting is the Court of Revision, and at that time, that's when you can dispute your assessment.
But
on
I've got
this.
another strange question. Everybody pays a lot of taxes here. Why aren't our tax dollars looking after this problem?
So that's because it's a municipal drain. And Jeff, did you want to walk through how Lucan BIddulph deals with municipal drain assessment?
yeah, so through the mayor, so Lucan BIddulph has chosen to maintain municipal drains in urban areas. So Lucan has the Whitfield, the Van Hoosen, the Ben, all these have been established municipal drains under the Drainage Act. They've chosen to maintain that. Same as in Granton, we have a number of Granton drains that are maintained as municipal drains. They are defined legally in a separate way. They're not included as stormwater items. Other municipalities have chosen to take over the municipal drains and start collecting money on a monthly charge to the residents to maintain those drains. Middlesex Center has done some of this. Other municipalities have looked into this, but in this municipality, they have chosen to maintain the municipal drains that they have and continue to function under the Municipal Drain Act. So as we get into construction and reconstruction of items like this, then we go through the proper procedures, and everybody who's in the watershed then contributes to the maintenance and the upkeep of the drain.
So it's like a condo. They need something done, got their hand out again. Right?
Any other questions, clarifications? Okay, come on up.
I just had a question when the next meeting is then to discuss the fees around said drainage issue. Hugh Pierce, 101 Spencer.
I guess that will determine, I don't know what the schedule is for this, like,
The typical time frame is that if this report receives first and second reading as a provisional bylaw, then the municipality mails notice of that, includes the bylaw to all the assessed property owners to notify them of the next meeting being the quarter revision. If there are issues that need to be addressed, we may ask that the court be delayed a little bit to give us time to do that. We don't know. But in a typical basis, it's somewhere between 20 to 30 days from the mailing of the notices. The notices are usually sent out a relatively short time period after. So you might be looking into a month or a month and a half from now is a typical timeframe.
so, just change that. As it is now, we were hoping for the quarter revision to be November 5th. But depending on what council decides on this, we can push that. The earliest it would be November 5th. But I think that might be pushed back a bit. Okay.
All right, I'm just looking for clarification too. In the bylaw there, it said $10,000 to be divided, and then right above it, it said the estimated cost was 76,800. So are we splitting 10,000 or 76,800?
So I think that's.
And again, that's a rough estimate. This
That- yeah, this is all estimates.
500,000 by the time we're done here.
I think your block is the Lucan lands, which is the 10,800.
Okay, so I need to have reference. Yeah, the Lucan lands is the block, and the block is a portion of the overall assessment. So the assessments are not distributed, based purely on area. There's benefit, there's outlet. So there's different types of assessment. This is an estimate. And the job would be tendered out and constructed. So it could come in less than the estimate, and it could come in more than the estimate. It could come in close to the estimate. We don't know at this time.
Yeah, I mean, $76,000 is nothing nowadays, so
So
that's a nice driveway.
this particular project would be tendered out and prorated. At the end of the day, it would be prorated against the assessments in Schedule C. So there is a schedule that shows the particular numbers. So it would be prorated against that, either down or up against that.
All right. The rest of my questions I'll save for the 5th, but yeah, thanks.
Okay, Jeff.
Yeah, I'd just like to add, in all the time we've been running through these municipal drains, we have had a tender come back that has been over considerably. And at that point, we stopped the process and reevaluated the costs and reevaluated the process before we went any further on that drain. So I think, the engineers to bring back a very good estimate, a very reasonable estimate. So if it were to come back and be unreasonable, that would be something that we could look at stopping the process and reevaluating what's going on and why that estimate was not close. So we have had that happen in the past once or twice with some of our stuff, but I'm confident, Spree does it on a regular basis. They have a good handle on what it's costing out there. So I'm confident that estimate is a reasonable estimate.
Yep, come on up. Oh,
Sorry.
Sorry.
Sarah Tangney, 111 Jefferson Street. I just had two questions. So the first was, because this is going out to tender, when will we, the homeowners, hear as to what the final cost will be for this project? And my second question is, once we hear and we are assessed this, will this be a separate line item on our property bill?
Good questions. Who wants to take that?
Yeah, well, I guess I better not speak on the, yeah.
Treasurer might
um,
want to answer the one.
Yeah, so we'll bring back the tender, and generally we'll update, the report. And again, as long as it's close, in the estimate, we'll continue with the process. And if it seems that it's unreasonable or have gone extremely out of control, then that's where we would stop the process and reevaluate to make sure everybody was aware of what's going on, before we proceeded any further.
So as far as the timing goes, it depends on when the project's completed and the final assessments are done. And then we get that information approved by the Spreets. They send us that information, then we do the billing. So depending on the timing of that, if it's small dollars, we can add it to the tax bill that we get. And then we can show that as a local improvement. So you see that as a separate line item. If it's large dollar, we send them an invoice, and that was explained in the letter. So it really depends on the timing of that. Sometimes if it's small, but because of the number of people we have to do, if it's smaller number, we just add it as an adjustment to your, a line item to your, and send you a statement of your taxes, and then you show that, and then you can pay that. So it depends on the timing, if it's in time to do the tax bill, or if it's after that, we'll have to do a statement showing that adjustment. But if it's a larger number, if you're one of the farm owners, then you'll get an actual invoice and have everyone have the same amount of time to pay, 30 days. So.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, any other questions? Did you want to come up?
Linda Barr, 121 Market Street. Just in listening to this, I can't say I'm an expert in any of this, but I just had one question. This project was initiated by a petition by the homeowner that's having the problem at that corner where that part of the drain is. Now, that's a very unusual home built many years ago by the Stotesbury Leesons, when it would have been the village of Lucan. And we're given permission to build a house right there by the drain with a bridge that has to go across the drain for him to get into his garage. That's how close he is. I question whoever gave them permission to build in that location that close. I can't see how a Sable Bayfield or whoever controls these matters would have allowed it. And now we have to step in and help this homeowner because now his foundation's in danger of washing away. Not that right now it looks like it's a lot of money. It isn't. I'm not freaking out about that. But it seems like it's that homeowner's problem that's in question here. He's the one that's got things washing away and threatening his foundation and so on. And he's the one that bought that house that's sitting in such an odd spot.
Well, I can't speak to the history as to how it came to
Got
be where it
permission.
is. But you know, Jeff's kind of walked through how drains and drain assessments work. And you'll see this, I mean, it is interesting because it is a municipal drain. And so many landowners are affected. It is not an issue that many municipal homeowners are familiar with. If you live in the country, I mean, that's how water moves, is all through drains. And you can see how properties that are along those drains, as Mike has said, whether it's a benefit, whether it's an outlet, you know, they have to contribute in some form or fashion, even if, you know, they didn't even know that they were part of it. That's just the nature of how drains work. And this one is different because it was
It's a house right beside.
because, you know, it is a municipal drain, and it's just not something that, you know, we deal with on a regular basis like this.
I understand. It's just, it does seem to be more that homeowner's issue
Yeah.
that has
Well-
stimulated this situation. all of us, as you can see, have concerns about,
Mhm.
about the water and
Yep.
the flooding and how things are draining, but, this seems to be centered on that particular property.
Yes, I could answer a few different things is this particular culvert and the drain itself they were constructed as part of the drain in 1983. So it was existing at that time. And so the culvert in question is part of the municipal drain now. So the municipality has an obligation through the Drainage Act to make sure that it's functioning the way that it was intended. So it's part of the drain. It's not petitioned. It's a request for repair and improvement. So it's an existing entity. And then there is, like I indicated before, there is different types of assessment. Properties that will physically benefit from this, like the property in question, is paying more
Okay.
than what the other landowners are. The benefit itself is a significant amount of cost to that particular land. I think if you look at under the net schedule after compensation, we do have to provide some allowance for damage to the property because we will be on the property physically to do some of the erosion work. But the cost is over $20,000 to that particular property after the compensation.
Okay,
So
that seems fair.
it compared to, I think we were in the range of between $35 and $40 guessed at for some of the
Yeah,
residential
yeah.
properties.
No,
So
it's not significant.
it is proportionate in terms of we do know and we acknowledge that land is the land that's benefiting.
Okay, okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Would you, yeah,
Yeah, and just to follow up, the roads, because of Maple Street, the road department through the township through the road department owning the road will be paying a considerable amount to this project as well, because we need to control the erosion in that area. And part of that, not only is it the culvert, but there is some erosion in the bends leading into this area. So it is distributed quite highly to the roads and to this property owner compared to the rest of the drain.
okay, any other comments? Remember to state your name and your address.
I'm Kathy McFarland and I live at 123 Market Street, which is the end of the street that I think we're all here about flooding. My backyard is, I have about a quarter of it. I've had to fence off because it's a permanent swamp now. It wasn't like that. It's just accumulated. Now, this year I found that the front yard is also holding water for 2-3 days. I have a storm drain on the edge of my property. So I don't know if it's plugged or what, but it's the mess. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate those comments, Kathy. Yep, Jeff?
So again, I know there's been some concerns on Market Street and the back streets on Alice and some of the old sections of town. And there was some comments made. So one of the things that we got to keep in mind that each property owner, there could be old drains been installed for years. As roots get in them, as they fill up with dirt, it is up to the property owner to maintain drains on their own property. To keep the drainage, the storm drain should be working. If it's municipal owned, it should keep working. But the drains around your house and around your backyards and draining on private property is private infrastructure. That's just not something that is built into our infrastructure that we look after. So I don't mind coming out and taking a look at anybody's yard. In fact, I think I've been to a couple of places and looked at some of the drains. We do support, staff will support coming out and seeing if we can locate some of the private drains if we can. But that's a different topic. And I certainly encourage you to reach out to me and I'll send some guys around. Yeah.
Okay, any other comments on or questions on the Whitfield drain? So Helen, why are you here? Are you here for the Whitfield drain?
I don't know where it drains in. I just seen it on Facebook and I came to see what was going on. I've had a long time with drainage problems
Okay,
and.
okay, this drain, okay, yeah. No, this, okay, this drain won't affect your doesn't affect your property. This drain does not affect your property. Okay,
But I had an ongoing situation.
so that we're gonna have to deal with outside of this meeting. Okay, that would have to be a separate discussion. Yeah.
And no.
Okay, okay. Well,
I pay my
okay.
taxes.
I appreciate that, but this isn't what, this meeting isn't about your property. It's a,
This is the town of Lucan.
this is
I
about,
didn't say that. I didn't
well,
say that.
okay. So last call for questions. Is it a short one, Mr. Price? Like,
Yeah,
Make it sure.
I just wondered, so do
Yeah.
I get a guarantee I'm gonna benefit from this drain? Because this problem of the major flooding is not gonna go away with this fix on somebody's private driveway.
I can appreciate, yep.
Figure culvert
Yeah.
might solve the problem. I
Okay.
don't know it, but that's why I asked. So I get a guarantee or to check today
Okay,
for $100.
okay. I don't, Mike?
I can address that. No, the answer is no, because you are not assessed benefit. There, if you read the schedule of assessment, there is only 2 properties that are receiving what's referred to as a special benefit. And that is because you're dealing with a crossing, a structure that isn't really helping drainage, but it's helping access to a property. So that's a special benefit beyond a drainage benefit. And that is Maple Street and the Lane property, the residential property in question. So those 2 properties are receiving a special benefit for having a new culvert. Then there's also benefit that's being assessed to the adjacent land who's getting protection from stone on the bank, and that's the Lane property. All of the other properties within that area are assessed outlet, which has nothing to do with benefit or improvements. It's strictly a liability because your water uses that system. It uses the Whitfield drain to get from point A to point B. So as it's going through town, your water uses it. And in accordance with the Drainage Act, any property who has water leaving their property and getting in has to contribute financially for their water to be able to use it. And that goes all the way, not just where this is, that's upstream between this culvert and Saintsbury and downstream of Saintsbury across Kent Street and Beach Street down to where it enters the Bend drain. And then from downstream of that, it's referred to as the Bend drain. So it's a different drain. So under the Drainage Act, it's a liability, not a benefit. It has nothing to do with anything physical that's going to help your property at all.
Okay, I think we've entertained all of the public questions. At this point, I will ask council if council has any questions. Councillor Regan.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. So Jeff, just for, if I may with Jeff, just a point of clarification. So there's a lot of theme tonight just about flooding in backyards, and those sorts of things. And again, not an engineer, so I'm not sure how much that has to do with the actual drain. But my question was, I just want to make sure I understand that if we regularly check the drains for blockages where things might be backed up, slowed up, vegetation that's in there is, I'm just wondering if that's it. And did you say that if people were having problems with older drains or drains that might be on their property, and we don't know because somebody might have put a drain in 50 years ago, we like a tile in somewhere, we don't know. So would we help residents with that? Like, would we put a camera down it to see if there's a blockage to maybe help get some of that water off their property? I just wanted to clarify if I heard that right. Thank you.
Yeah, through the mayor. So, sorry, I lost my train of thought there. I'll go to the second.
It's
one
usually
first.
it's my fault.
Private drainage. We will support people in assisting if we can help them find something.
Thank you.
But private infrastructure is still private infrastructure. If it's
Agreed.
plugged with roots, we can suggest, solutions. we can help them, support them. But a lot of times, and particularly the Market Street area, on the, that backs onto Alice, there has been drains installed by neighbors that have assisted in draining the backyards. We believe that they're not working as they once did. At the same time, if those neighbors want together and redo that drain, that would be something they could, but it's something that we just can, as a municipality, get involved with without just providing some basic knowledge and support to them. In the past, there's been a lot of drains hooked to our storm lines. And in the old days, there wasn't backflow valves put in. And a lot of times when we had these big rains and our storm mains do fill up, you bring the water right back to your basement.
Right.
We found that to be an issue the last couple of times. And again, we'll go in with cameras and try and find those problems if we can assist the homeowner so they can correct them. So there's all sorts of things we can help with. We just can't take the responsibility of this, of backyard drainage.
Yeah. So, and Madam Mayor, I wasn't suggesting that we do that. So just to be absolutely clear, the township of Lucan BIddulph will assist homeowners in mitigating that flooding, right?
No, be very careful. If they have a problem, we
that's why I'm asking.
can talk to them about their problem.
Okay, but
Okay.
okay, fair enough.
But we need information about the problem to assist them.
Okay, gotcha. So that
But-
clearly.
But we're not going to mitigate it
No,
for
no.
them on
No.
private property. Homeowners are still.
No, I understand
okay,
that. No,
okay,
I get that
okay.
part. I get, yeah, no,
Okay.
I get that.
And
All right.
sorry, Madam Mayor, there was the first part of the question was the.
No, I'll come back. to
It'll
it,
come
but
back to
I'll
it.
come back.
Counselor Hodgins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Mr. DeVos. I just wanted to ask, how are the watershed limits, particularly in the urban area, defined, like for this drain report?
The urban areas would have been defined in two different ways. We could be using existing limits that have been established previously, or in areas that would not have been done, we may be using some LiDAR information. And we have not done physical field investigation. That would be done if people think there's something wrong. The cost of doing it physically would be substantially higher.
Thank you. And follow up. So and further to the comments you just made, I was going to ask the question, like, do we feel that the limits need to be refined, or would that just be cost prohibitive? Is it better to just deal with that through the court of revision for those couple properties that might dispute if they're assessed or not?
We would typically recommend that if people bring some of these issues to our attention now, that we do the field investigation at their request for those particular areas that are suggesting that need to be looked at. So I've heard of two areas in the older part of Lucan, and then there's also Spencer Street, which I'll need to have some discussions as well to determine what's happening there. And then I would typically report back. If there's changes, I would provide a written recommendation to make those changes for the court. And then the court could make those changes as part of the court of revision. So we would typically try to get that information to the court so that the court can handle and address the changes that may be necessary if there's something different than what was shown in the report.
Thank you. Just one more question, a different question. If there are roads that are unassumed roads, like they're not municipal roads yet, they're still owned by the developer, would that assessment go to that developer who owns those roads?
My understanding of the billing, and I don't want to say that I'm an expert on it, but I believe it's the owner of the land at the time of the assessment. So whoever owns that particular land or road or unassumed road, it's the owner at the time of a billing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from council? Councilor Regan, did you remember what you were going to say? So and this, and based on the comments that we heard tonight, and again, this might be more of a Jeff question rather than a Spreet's question, but from a maintenance standpoint, when I hear the concerns about what's happening on Market Street, and some of the properties on Alice, is there something that we can do? I get the feeling that, but what's been requested and perhaps maybe what the issues are, that they're two separate issues, and that we shouldn't stop necessarily this project going forward if maintenance or anything else needs to be done to the drain. So I guess, what would next steps be? And I guess if there was anything that you heard tonight that you're saying maybe we should hold off on this, or yeah, if you can understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, and it connects with Councilor Reagan's question was, so do we walk these drains regularly? And we really have, in the last little while, been relying on homeowners to report blockages, erosion, that sort of thing in the drain. We don't, we have to be careful because everything we do out there, then we have to bill back to the owner. So we tend, and I try to keep a very even keel between rural and urban, because I don't go out and try and find work and start billing a whole bunch of people if they think the drain is working fine. Now, having said that, in the backside of Market and back in that area, it's in private property. So for us to walk that, we'll be in people's backyards. So we tend not to do that until a homeowner requests it. And then once a homeowner requests it, we can get them to sign a request for maintenance, and we can begin the process like we have on the bend, which we're doing. Now, having heard a problem, I can then start stepping up and looking into it and getting, is it Mr. Price? Mr. Price is concerned then. I would like to meet with him and look at some of the stuff and start looking into whether we have to cut more trees down, take out some sediment, rebuild some banks, see what's there, and then assess whether it's an improvement or a maintenance part of the Whitfield. But until we're aware that there is a problem, we tend to let the drain do its work. But at the same time, soon as I hear of a problem, that's when we can react and start looking at that. Then to follow up the question that you had, this project is really about a small little section. And we can look at the bigger drain and start looking at doing a lot more work over there. But it's not really going to change this project. This project is very narrow based, and it's really contained in a small area. And really, to be honest, what we're going to do there, we could do it on the whole drain, and we could get this completed, and it'll just be completed as we do the rest of the drain. Okay.
Gotcha. Okay. Yep, Mike.
If I could take the opportunity maybe to comment, being the consideration meeting and dealing with design, there was a comment made by Mr. Price about flooding and the future and the rain events being more frequent. I would refer that as climate change. There is evidence to show that climate change is a real issue. It is changing the frequency of some of the more severe rain events. And that in turn then leads to the issue for municipalities. How and what level of service do you provide for your infrastructure? There's a lot of infrastructure there. Lucan has a lot of infrastructure. And so as a whole, it's a problem that Lucan and municipality will need to look at going forward. Do you change your standards? Do you change the level of service, or do you change the definition of what a 2-year or 5-year rain event is? Municipalities have considered this and started taking action, changing some of the level of design for storm sewers themselves. Storm sewers are much more frequent, a more common item. but it leads to issues that you have all sorts of existing infrastructure out there. And how do you start designing new infrastructure that ties into old infrastructure that's not the same level of service? But it's an issue that's ongoing. And the only thing that I could see tonight here that's been brought up is something that as a council and considering this report is the level of service, the sizing of this pipe. Do you think that it's sufficient, or do you want to sort of build for the future and make it a little bigger, thinking maybe the level of service or the design standards for this type of infrastructure should change in the future due to climate change? That's something that is a real question, and it's not an easy question. But I'm going to throw it out there. It's a problem that I know that you probably don't want to hear about, but there is evidence to show that things are starting to change and you're seeing the effects of it.
Okay. I guess what I would say though, I mean, that's a big question. That's not that wasn't the scope of this project, and the reason for it. Do we have enough information? Like, I don't think we have enough information tonight to make that sort of that change in the scope of the project.
Yeah, maybe I recommend to me, and maybe this is something that we could have a further discussion on. And maybe that Mike and myself can talk, and maybe we can bring back an option, or maybe look at oversizing the pipe. Certainly, we're not at a point where we can do that. It'll take some re-engineering, it'll take some additional costs. We'll have to revamp the report. I'll bring it back to you, bring it back out to everybody else. But if that is a concern that we've heard, then maybe we should be looking at oversizing that pipe. Having said that, that pipe, the rest of the drain at this point is not at that size. And like I said, the Whitfield is a big drain to upsize. And if that's our goal, then Mike's right. Climate change is a real thing, and we have to address that. So I would, is there a bit of a concern with council, then we should stop and we'll reevaluate and we can look at it.
I guess my question though is, but to your point, Jeff, if you oversize that pipe and the rest of I guess it would still, the drain still works even though the pipe is oversized, like.
Yeah, I would comment that you're planning for the future. The extra cost spent to make the pipe bigger isn't going to be utilized at this time because the rest of the drain isn't that big. But if you were just to decide that you should make the rest of the drain bigger to accommodate these things, then this particular piece would be big and not have to change later. So you'd be designing for potential future improvement of the rest of the system.
Right.
If that's the way that.
And designing that, and maybe we don't know that tonight, but if we went that route and we put in the larger size for the properties that expressed concern, is there benefit to them, or do we even know that? Do we know that yet? Or
I don't think it's going to make a substantial, or not even a noticeable difference, because there is a culvert underneath the intersection, very short distance downstream. And the channel itself is not designed, so the channel will fill up with water and overtop its banks at times. So without looking at improvements to the channel and all the other culverts, this particular culvert, I believe, is the only private access culvert to a private land. The rest of the culverts are road culverts, but there's a number of them. I don't know the exact number, but there's several culverts that would be underneath roads that would also be designed at a certain standard, that if you're looking at altering all of them in the future to accommodate bigger rain events, but that could apply to the bend drain. So council needs to be aware of the implications of doing this throughout its municipality.
hey, Any other questions or comments from council? I mean, I think we have all had discussions about planning for future. How does climate change affect what we're going to be doing? I don't know whether I'm necessarily 100% comfortable to make that decision tonight, though. Like on this, I mean, we can refer it back to see what it looks like, I guess, but we don't have a climate change action plan. We don't, you know, I just feel maybe this is a little bit knee jerk at this point, but
Council does have the ability to refer the report back at any point in time prior to passing of the bylaw. So you could decide to move forward to the quarter revision and then have discussions. And then if you do wish to change the design at a later date, you could send it back at a later date. It doesn't have to be done tonight. So I'm just giving you a little bit of flexibility with that. It is a provision of the act that allows for a report to be referred back for change at any point in time. Does it make sense to hold the quarter revision and spend more engineering money? No. But if the side discussions with the municipality and all that, if it's decided not to make the culvert bigger, then you at least you don't have to restart the process.
okay. Councillor Hodgins?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just going to, bring up, I guess, what decision are we going to make with that? I think it is important, like, urban drainage, and it's maybe less important for municipal drains in areas outside of our settlement areas or urban areas, but certainly, we're hearing complaints about flooding. It may be that we are looking at this drain more comprehensively in the near future, and I guess it would be, I think it's prudent that we do look at the sizing of the structure and that it is future proofed for climate change. So what that process looks like, it sounds like we can refer it back or we can do it at this point, but I think it would be prudent that we do consider this now, and something we look into more in the future as well, more comprehensively. But it would be good to, or we don't want to miss this opportunity now to make sure this is future proofed.
Okay, so based on Councillor Hodgins, did you have a comment?
Just a question. So if you don't upsize that culvert, I'm just wondering how this is the current size or the operation or the capacity of the drain right now. Is that not, that's not in jeopardy now? I mean, that's not something that's the issue. That's not causing the flooding. Is that is that's two separate things? Like I know that the flooding may be caused by drains on the property. I don't know, is the current size of that drain right now the cause of the flooding? And so I'm just wondering because I'm asking, the reason I'm asking that is that if you don't make that, like if you don't upsize it, if you don't, then is it still going to work fine? Is basically what I'm saying. And again, looking at the flooding, which is a separate issue. Again, that's what my question is. Is it a separate issue than just, is it caused by the drain?
We looked at the design of the existing culvert that was there in isolation. We did not analyze the drain upstream. We did not analyze how much water the open channel can pass, what capacity the channel has. We looked at the culvert itself and we compared it to the design level and the standards of the municipality for that particular structure. And so it meets, the existing one met it, and the new one would be very similar in size. Almost exactly the same size as the old one in terms of capacity.
Right.
So, and for the fact that the landowners did not indicate that there was a flooding concern there. So all those things in combination, we have not analyzed the other portions of the drain. You could. It's a different exercise and it takes different calculations and different things like that, but that wasn't part of the scope of this project.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so in light of Councillor Hodgins' comments about looking at what that looks like, I guess I am looking maybe to staff as to how it is best to proceed. Is it best to refer it back to get to look at that? Or as Mike has indicated, we can keep the process moving, but refer it back for different design before the third reading of the bylaw, I think, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, if I may, I would think we follow what Mike said and that we bring back more information, but we keep the process going. Because I think we want to make sure that, one, what is the ramification of expanding the Whitfield drain? Because the Whitfield does go into the bend. And so unless we start at the bend, we're not going to do anything upstream to the Whitfield. So let's be honest, even if we want to expand the Whitfield, we're years away. That doesn't mean we shouldn't look into the possibility of this culvert being oversized. And I think we can direct the engineer to bring that information back with the ability to see even what we could expand to.
We don't have to I don't know, do we have to set a date for the quarter revision tonight? No, we don't. Were you gonna stick around to talk to Mike after? Sorry. We're minutes, like we're a minute away. Yeah. Just, we're wordsmithing. Okay, so I'm going, based on Councillor Hodgins' comments and Jeff and Mike, just wordsmith the motion that was in front of us. And council can go with it or not, but we're going to go with that. The drainage report for the Whitfield Drain 2024 as prepared by Spreet and Associates dated August 30th, 2024 be received and adopted, and that staff be directed to look at design options for the design of the culvert in making it larger, upsizing it. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So a mover and a seconder. Councillor Regan and Councillor Hodgins. Any further discussion? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Appreciated the drainage 101. They are interesting. I mean, that's how we move water. And I have to say, in my years on council, this is the longest drainage meeting we've ever had in Lucan BIddulph. But I can honestly say though, and Mike can probably back me up, not all of the communities in Middlesex County, like there's many communities in Middlesex County that have meetings like this. Drainage is very important to our agricultural community. And so when it ends, enters our urban boundaries, it is something new for us all to deal with. So appreciate everybody's patience for coming out tonight and their comments and your time as well tonight, Mike. So, okay. Okay, with that, I would ask for a mover and a seconder to close our public meeting at 7:37 and reconvene our regular council meeting. Councillor Westman and Councillor Hodgins, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay. All right, we do have a delegation tonight. Did you want to take a break for 2 seconds? Okay, we'll entertain a short motion or is short recess by Councillor Hodgins and Councillor Westman, all in favor? That's carried for 5 minutes. Okay, we're back live after a brief recess. Appreciate everybody's patience. So we do have a delegation tonight. And at this point, I'm going to welcome from Monteith Brown, Anand Desai, and Dylan Whitty. And they are going to present our final Parks and Recreation Master Plan that we've been working on for the last number of months. So welcome, gentlemen, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and hello, members of council. Appreciate you having us today, staff as well. As the mayor just indicated, we have a very brief presentation today. And we can go to the next slide right away. We'll be somewhat expeditious in our delivery, but certainly here for as long as you'd like us in the Q&A. We were last in front of this council in August to present the draft Parks and Recreation Master Plan. We heard feedback from this committee, from the advisory committees, and we shortly after our presentation to you launched into a public review and comment period. Had a bit of a feedback form, an open house. So we heard from quite a few folks. So today's presentation is not necessarily intended to duplicate what we gave to you back in August, really to remind council of the highlights of the master plan, but more importantly, generally what we heard through the consultations, understanding that staff will also be coming back to you with a separate report at another time with respect to it. Really with this slide, again, the context is, and it's no secret, you are a growing municipality, one of the faster ones proportionally, over the last census periods. And so as your population has changed, you as a municipality are looking at ways to keep pace with all of your services. And so again, Parks and Recreation in this context is being evaluated in the context of growth to over 7,000 people over the next 12, 13 years or so, a changing socioeconomic and sociocultural base here. So a lot of these, go into recreation and were factored into our analysis. We'll go to the next slide, please. Oh, yep. No problem. I didn't see that behind me. I was too focused. So in a nutshell, this council and I guess perhaps the past council as well have done an excellent job in terms of positioning your township for growth. Perhaps you didn't envision the amount of growth that you would have expected back in 2015 as you received, but the investments that you have made in your parks and recreation system have allowed you to weather that proverbial storm, and we believe set yourselves up very well for the future. So as a result, we don't think that it's not necessarily an ambitious capital program. It's a matter of making sure that we continue to ready ourselves and stay in a position where we are responding to growth. So continuing to invest in parkland, in your trail system. Arguably, I suppose, the biggest capital item that perhaps could come out of this master plan pertains to the need for a second ice pad. Again, we are advocating a bit of a cautious approach. We would not recommend a single pad arena. So we would recommend through this process the due diligence to look across the street at the feasibility of whether or not your existing arena can be twinned, the costs associated with that, as well as continuing to monitor growth in the ice sport market. Because again, this does have a capital and ongoing operating implication. We want to make sure that the business case is sound. But at the same time, we know that your arena is under a degree of pressure right now as your younger populations have grown and growth in ice sport memberships have increased. We have also talked about facilities such as the Scout Guide Hall, bolstering your initial investment at Campanelli Soccer Complex with some added amenities, and then looking at the Granton community, specifically the park there, to continue again the work that you've already started. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, after we came to council, we had an open house. We had a public review and comment period, and the feedback that we received was generally supportive of the master plan. Certainly, we heard from a few user groups. Arena groups were generally, again, pleased with and supportive of the need to look at if the arena could be twinned. But the Scout Guide Hall, we did hear from them as well, expressing the importance of that facility to the community. And as a result, we relooked at our original draft recommendation and have made some tweaks to the wording there to make it abundantly clear that it is not a recommendation aimed solely at potentially closing, which I think was the initial concern. Really, the direction always was been, but we do understand, in the wording, that it could have been construed differently. We hopefully have provided a recommendation where really it is this council and your staff understanding the asset management obligations of that facility so that you can make a decision moving forward, whatever that might be. So in terms of really implementing the plan, council, again, when the staff report or recommendation is brought forward to you, you are not bound to implementing or, any or all of these recommendations. This is a guide. It is a roadmap. It can help you inform capital budgets, future updates to your development charges, bylaw, study and bylaw, your land use planning applications, when it comes to parks and trails. So really, you will have the ability, and staff will bring forward individual recommendations on an ongoing basis for council to deliberate through those kinds of processes. Timing, as suggested in the master plan as well, where we have provided a suggested time frame. Certainly, if there's grants available, one would want to perhaps jump on those as you did across the street. So really, all said and done, and we can go to the last slide. We are here to address any questions of council should they arise. But more importantly, we want to thank, again, on behalf of Dylan, myself, the rest of our team at Monteith Brown, thank this council for the guidance provided by yourselves through the master planning process. Our appreciation to township staff at all levels. They worked very hard and in certain instances stepped into some roles that they perhaps didn't expect to at a time. But that, your collective efforts helped, keep this process moving. Delivered what we believe is a sound plan for this community to continue to grow. And again, our final thanks go to your community, to your user groups that participated and gave us their time and their feedback. So with that, Dylan and I are happy to address any questions of council.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for that. All right, questions or comments, Terry, from council at this time? Councillor Hodgins. I could tell the body language.
I have to say something. Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, I just want to say thank you for all the work that's gone into this from your team and from staff. I like the plan a lot, and I think it's great to have a plan. I think when we see a funding application coming up, and by having a plan and having some ideas already hashed out and what we want to have for our parks and recreation and projects we see coming down the pipeline, it's certainly important to have this in place to help and to help us as councillors make the decisions that we make. So just want to say thank you for everyone's hard work on this.
Thanks. Any other questions or comments? No, I would just echo. Darcy, is there anything that you wanted to add?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the only comment I would make is I will bring a report back this is just to receive the report from Monteith Brown, and I will bring a report back to adopt the plan at a later date. So you guys know that's coming, but this was just to get the report and have Monteith Brown for questions and answers. So.
I'll just echo what Councillor Hodgins said. I really like this report, and I think it is, when we did the report back in, 2015, it was the first time we had ever undertaken a recreational master plan. So, there were so many recommendations, and it was funny to go back and kind of check off to see exactly what we had accomplished. But I think given the investment that we have made in recreation over the last, 9 years, I think this is an appropriate plan in that it's nothing new. It's building on what we've already been doing. And, as funding opportunities present themselves, I think we've set ourselves up for success here. I will jump off when you thanked our community. I'm extremely proud of our community and how they have participated in this process. There's no question that the hub of our recreation is the community center across the road, and our community feels attached to it. They feel like they own it, and they're very passionate about it. And so I'm happy to see them participate in your process, participate with PRAC members, participate with all of us individually. It does speak to the importance of recreation in a community. And I think, in 2024, we have to understand that recreation isn't just passing a puck or kicking a ball, that the benefits of proper, affordable public recreation does so much more for a community and for an individual. And as a municipality, like we have a responsibility to invest in that. So really, really pleased with the report that you've drafted. So Councillor Regan.
No, thank you. Just sort of as chair of Parks and Rec, I just wanted to thank you guys for all the work you did. And I'm just a couple comments. It's interesting that the demographics, the part of the report has to do with the demographics, and it's made us aware of the fact that we really have to expand the kinds of programs that we have. So speaking to what you had just mentioned, to make sure that it's inclusive for everyone as well. So that was part of it. And of course, there's a diversity of just, it's just not a puck or a ball or whatever. It's all of these sorts of things. But that we now need in our community. I'm just wondering, my question maybe just for Darcy is that when we think about all of the recommendations, do we move forward now? Do we take this? Is it something that perhaps Parks and Rec Committee looks at with respect to priorities? And some of the things when I read through some of the things we're doing, some of the things we've started to do, I'm just wondering when we sort of move forward, do we look at priorities and how do we do that?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, so what and I think I spoke about this at an earlier meeting, my goal would be that I bring it back on a yearly basis and have like a semi timeline of when I think we're going to complete that recommendation or action that recommendation, as well as kind of color coded when they're completed in the works, and maybe that we decided to not do one of them because that could come up because things can change, right? So my commitment to council would be on a yearly basis to bring back the report and say, this is where we're at and this is what we're doing. And these are the ones we've completed and these are the ones we're still working on. So.
All right. Thank you, Darcy. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much again. It was great working with you. And yeah, we'll look forward to sharing our results with you as we proceed through the plan. Great.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much. Thank you. With that, I would ask for a mover and a seconder to receive the presentation and final version for information. Councillor Westman and Deputy Mayor Manders, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Yep. Good night. Okay, moving on to the minutes. We have one set of minutes in front of us, and that was from September 17th. And if nothing needs to be amended, I would ask for a mover and a seconder to approve those as circulated. Councillor Hodgins and Councillor Regan. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Nothing's been added to business of rising. And I would ask council if there was anything that you wanted added to business arising from the September 17th minutes. Councillor Hodgins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. Nothing added, but I was just going to, and it may not be the best time to bring this up with our CAO not being here, but just on the procurement item, that's been a standing item on the business arising for some time. And I'm just sort of linking it with one of our correspondence items because County Council did have a presentation and information from their new procurement department. So I was just kind of looking at that, and is that an opportunity that we're gonna look at for addressing that standing item on the business arising? However, this is likely one for Ron to answer, but
I don't know whether Catherine can answer anything, because I know you've been maybe work a little bit with the procurement department from the county.
I'll just mention that we do have, they did reach out to us. And they want to work with us with the new staff member there. And we have a meeting scheduled for later in October to discuss how they can help and develop a plan that way. That's all I know. If that addresses anything in regards to that business arising, but that would be the start, I would think.
I know that there was discussion, I'm just jumping to the correspondence item. So there's the procurement presentation was at county council last week. And I know there was maybe some discussion of once, like the local staff has a meeting with the procurement department, maybe there's more of a formal presentation done to council as to how procurement might look in the future. I know that there's been maybe some talk about that, but I would also think, to your point, when Ron gets back, the two of them Ron and Catherine can bring someone forward. Yep.
okay, that sounds good. Thank you for that update. And maybe just maybe looking for some clarification on, I guess, what exactly the follow-up, like it says staff to provide a report outlining procurement processes and options going forward. But maybe I'm not entirely sure, I guess, what we are looking for here. And I think it's been on here for a while, so I'm not sure what it links back to.
But I think it links back to the county growing their procurement department. Because there was one staff member, and initially the talk had been that it was going to be a department, right? So there was going to be two staff members. Budget pulled that back. So there was one staff member at the county and kind of, really looked at procurement policy and procedures at the county level with all of the county departments, and has streamline that, made it, I think, more efficient. And from there, we've brought on now we've brought on another person. And so I think that's where it's coming from, is how can the county support the local municipalities with their procurement department? Okay. On to correspondence. So there was one item that council or that staff pulled, and that was a letter from Jessica's house, asking for a letter of support. I trust that council has read it, and certainly I would be in favor of writing a letter of support. This community has shown that they've supported the efforts of Jessica's house, but I would look to council to make a verbal motion for that support, or to answer any questions that might arise from the letter. Councillor Westman?
I'll gladly make that motion.
If we can get a seconder, and then if there's any discussion on that, Councillor Regan, and is there any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor? And that's carried. So we will let Jessica's house know that we will draft a letter of support of their efforts. Were there any other items that council wanted to speak to in the items that we've received in the last couple of weeks? Councillor Hodgins?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, just the first one there, the letter from the Minister of Agriculture, Rob Flack, about some funding for agricultural workforce equity and diversity initiative. I know when these opportunities come out, we like to kind of put them out there and make sure our community is aware of them. And I'm just wondering, if we're aware of any agri business ventures within our municipality that we could specifically send this out to, just, here's an opportunity. If we are aware of some, and if we could just get that like directly sent off to them, it'd be great to see some of this funding come to our municipality.
I might look to Lisa to see if she had an answer to that.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, for sure. I can look at my list and see kind of what's appropriate, what agribusinesses would be appropriate to send that information through to. Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other items that council wanted to discuss? Okay, with that, I would ask for a mover and a seconder to receive those items for information purposes. Councillor Hodgins and Councillor Westman. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you very much. Okay, on to committee reports. Blue.
Yep, we did have a short meeting, but nothing to report. Everything's running smooth at the plant, so.
Okay. Any questions on the attached report? Okay. CEDC.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, we had a meeting, September 25th. There was a lot of discussion about our community improvement plan for 2025. And basically what we did with that was we determined that we took a look at what our budget might be, and took a look at some of the incentive programs that we're going to be making available to the community. The minutes are attached, by the way, for anyone that wishes to look at the in more detail. We also looked at our streetscape plan. We took a look at, again, just sort of what our budget might be, and taking a look at some of the opportunities that we might have is with that too. So we've, like I said, we've opened up, again, you can look at this for some more specific detail, but we looked at just trying to open up all of the opportunities that we had for, again, depending on, budget considerations. So everything, one of the things that we did look at was that people did feel that there was again, an importance that we had on accessibility in our community as well. We did actually, it was very interesting. We did have a workshop that was presented by this lady here, Julie Sawchuk, and this is her book actually. She left a number of these with her, with us, and it was an excellent presentation, just basically talking about accessibility and how to make your community a little bit more accessible. She did mention that her washroom gets an A+, by the way. That was one of the things that she had talked to about, and there was a number of discussions too, just about at our meeting about just how we could incorporate some of her ideas. And there's a holiday shopping weekend coming up, and if I'm not mistaken, I think our last night market is on Friday. Is that correct? There, okay. I think that's from 5 to 8, and that's all I have to report. And our next meeting is going to be on October 30th.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, you didn't have, did you turn your mic off? Okay. Okay, good. I just looked and it wasn't on. I thought, oh, you did that report and the mic wasn't on. Any questions on that report? Certainly a lot going on with CEDC. Any questions, comments? Okay, great. Thank you, Councillor. Lake Huron, we have a meeting this Thursday. Fire boards, the Lucan Fire Board met on Monday, and the minutes will be attached in a future meeting. ABCA.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, we did meet about 2 weeks ago on the 19th, and we had a lengthy hearing for a lakefront property. But I think the highlight for me for that meeting that I want to share with council would be the education update we got from Cassie Gradanis. And she's just really put together a really great program of getting out to organizations and schools. And so I think they delivered a total of 28 programs to nonprofit organizations, reaching a total of 570 youth and 165 adults. And it's great to see, they are coming into our municipality as well, working with the local schools. So, yeah, also they were visiting the Lucan Conservation Area. So it was just a great highlight, and lots of photos. So it looks like they had a lot of fun over the summer with the kids. So that's about it.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. Any questions on that? Okay, good. Awesome. Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, we did have a meeting on September the 19th. Just some brief things. I'm going to let Darcy explain a few more of these once he gets with his activity report. So there was a discussion on live streaming options at the community center, and that the committee recommended that staff proceed with both with two companies to provide the live streaming services for our arena. There was also a motion passed that we, the Parks and Rec Committee Advisory Committee, recommend council that the township apply for funding through the Community Sport and Recreation Infrastructure Fund. So Stream 1 to support the home side dressing room renovation at the area. And again, Darcy can speak to that at some point. There was some roundtable discussion. There were just some minor concerns actually with respect to some signage and sharps containers, or a bit of a discussion on that at the community center. There was actually, and I will mention, a number of our committee members. There was a lot of accolades and a lot of positives to Darcy and his staff with respect to the summer program and how all of that was run. And then Darcy will have some numbers for us, I think, a little bit later. But I thought that should be passed along. There was a lot of very positives about the swimming programs, the day camps, and I thought council should know about that. And our next meeting is going to be determined. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Any questions on those draft minutes? Councillor Hutchins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. Just maybe a procedural matter here, I'd like to clarify. And it would go for all committees. I just want to understand when passing resolutions and making decisions at the committee level, I guess I just want to understand like approval authority and whether it has to come back to council for approval. Like just for example, with this live streaming services or giving direction with a grant application, maybe just clarification of, I guess, roles and responsibilities there.
Generally, when motions are passed at committee level, then staff would bring back a report to council on those options, making a recommendation at that point. And in their recommendation report would mention that PRAC or CDC had supported this at that level, but it does have to come back to council for approval.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Okay. Staff reports. We have nothing from our CAO. Anything from the clerk's department?
There is nothing from the clerk's department today.
And finance, anything, Catherine?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to mention, bring attention the bylaw for the to amend the appointment bylaw, and that's just to amend the members for the finance committee for the 2025 budget season. So we are underway with that process and hope to have a meeting with that committee in early November is our goal.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. On to nothing from planning. Public Works, Jeff.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I did submit the activity report. It's fairly straightforward, although there is one item I did want to bring up, and that was the fall tree program. It was completed. It was a success other than the day of. We had the wrong trailer show up with the trees. And they still had a good supply of trees available for our residents. They just, some of them weren't the right species of tree to distribute. So Upper Thames did offer to give back anybody's money or cost for if they couldn't get the tree they wanted. Or they offered a number of our different varieties they could choose from. So at the end of the day, Julie was out there and Lisa, and I still think the majority, well, pretty much 99% of the people were happy, and the trees were good quality, and it seemed like a pretty good program other than the wrong trailer showed up.
Okay, that's good. Thank you for that. Was there any questions on Jeff's activity report? Guess we're all happy with your activity. If I can get a mover and a seconder to receive Jeff's report for information, please. Councillor Westman and Councillor Regan, all in favor. And that's carried. Thank you very much. Jeff, I might just ask you though about the bylaw. That there's two bylaws in or three. Yeah, there's three bylaws having to do with Old Clover. And assuming that, I think.
Well, yes, Madam Mayor. So as per my last activity report, we were working with the developer on phase 2 and phase 3 of Old Clover. And at this time, he has completed all the required items for the township to move forward with assumption. So having said that, these bylaws are now in place to move that forward on phase 2 and phase 3 of the Old Clover subdivision.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My report's in front of you, highlights a few capital projects as well as give some summer program numbers. As Daniel had stated, we did get some praise at the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee meeting, which was nice to hear. Unfortunately, Abby was away, or I would have liked for her to hear it because she's the workhorse behind those, but I definitely passed those on. A couple more updates that I would like to add that have kind of came to light since is we are having a robotic lawnmower demo at Campanelli Park tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. that anybody that would like to make it to check it out is more than welcome to come to Campanelli at 9 a.m. As well as just to go on to Daniel's comments in the PrAC meeting and Jaden's question is I will bring a report back, especially about the Community Infrastructure Fund and the PrAC recommending to apply for it. I'll bring a report back outlining the fund and outlining what we would look to report or to apply for, and then council can make a decision from there. But that'll probably happen in the fairly near future because it is a first come, first served grant. So but obviously we want to get the final plans in place and stuff too. So that'll take a little bit of time, but you will see that report come fairly quickly. As well as we've got a little breakthrough in the Spencer Playground installation. So I'll bring a report back to council probably next council meeting in regards to that as well. So you can look forward to that and those reports, and I'll gladly take any questions.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Any questions on the Community Services and Facilities Parks and Recreation Activity Report? Councillor Westman.
For you, Madam Mayor, I just wanted to thank Darcy and his team for listening to the concerns of our gardeners in Granton and extending the or postponing the activities there so they could finish up and harvest their crops, because I know it means a lot to the food bank and to the Sprouts program and all that. So thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you for those comments. If there's no other further questions, I would ask for a mover and a seconder to receive that report for information. Councillor Hodgins and Councillor Westman, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Economic Development.
There we go. Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, I have two reports for you this evening. The first is my activity report. If anyone has any questions, it just kind of outlines some items we've been up to the last few months. And I've also attached the presentation from the accessibility workshop was attached as well, I think, already. So if anyone has any questions on the activity report.
Any questions or comments on the activity report, the accessibility report? Nope. Okay, if I can get a mover and a seconder to receive that item for information, please. Deputy Mayor Manders and Councillor Regan, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you, through Madam Mayor. So our second report this evening was provided to you through with Ron and Jeff as well, preparing this document. So with regard to our industrial park phase 1, So the township retained last year approximately 12 acres back in phase one. We have not currently done anything with those properties as we were unsure how council would like to develop that, and then also about servicing those lots. What I'll do is I'll kind of go through the staff proposal first of the development, and then I'll let Jeff kind of take over the more technical parts about actually servicing the proposed development in this such way. So staff, let me just share my screen one moment. So again, this is all approximate sizing until we actually get a survey done of how we would like to see this developed. But approximately the first one is the whole entire parcel. You're looking at just under 7 acres for the entire thing. Recently, we had sold off approximately 6 acres previously to Glavins. So that has now been removed from our parcel. And so what we're left with, this is approximately 6.7 acres. Again, it's plus or minus, it's not exact numbers. So staff have been meaning to talk about how we could develop this in a servicing way and how we could sell off potentially some lots. The proposal that staff is submitting tonight is that the township would retain the north part of this parcel, which is approximately just over 3 acres for future needs that the township may want to expand at one point for numerous reasons. And so it works well if we just abut the public workshop for any future needs. Therefore, that would leave us 3 lots, approximately just 1.3 acres, 1.25 acres that would front onto Fallon Drive. So you can kind of see there's the 2 different parcel sizes. And then again, I'll let Jeff talk about the servicing in a minute. So staff, in the report, we included the previous sale from Glavins, how much we sold for that parcel for, and as well as a couple neighboring communities that actually have some serviced industrial lands and unserviced industrial lands available, and the price per acre that they are selling them for. So you can see, I'll turn this off for one moment. In your report, Glencoe was sitting at 36,000 starting at per acre, and then Strathroy Caradoc was 50 to 80 per acre, depending. That was their first phase of their development. So that's the design that we would like to propose. I will turn the servicing questions and issues over to Jeff to walk through and how this could be serviced if this is indeed the design that we would like to move forward with.
Yeah, so Madam Mayor, so the to start with this piece of property, which did include the Glavin property that was purchased last year, Lisa. This land was included when the engineering for the Heenan Court took place. So the stormwater pond that has been constructed on Heenan Court has been designed for this land to go to it. As well as there's water that flows past both on Saintsbury line and Fallon that is available for this property as well. Sanitary has been allocated to the plant through the Heenan Court development as well. It is a low pressure type system pumped to the plant. And it certainly has been, how would you say, accommodated for, I don't want to say high, like it hasn't been accounted for high flow industrial. It's meant for like a low flow industrial type uses. Having said that, this property is not serviced, so that the services are all there and available, but they will have to be serviced. I think in our discussions, because we are looking at 3 lots plus retaining one, that we take it, the municipality take on the servicing of these lots, so that we put them for sale, or we offer them for sale as serviced properties. So unlike the Glavin property that was sold last year, it was sold as an unserviced property. They actually had to put the services in, whereas these ones will put services right to the lot. And the reason for that is because if we're gonna have to create some easements, we're gonna have to create our own design to get the sanitary. Will have to be a public force main, which will end up being as part of the township infrastructure. So it just makes sense that the municipality take the lead on putting these services in the ground for these lots. It's fairly straightforward. Have had an initial discussion with Dylan, Jason Johnson at Dillon's, who did the original Heenan Court design. And we're confident that we can still use the same geotech information. We'll still use the build off of the Heenan Court industrial complex that this just adds in to that situation. So there's really nothing too complicated. It will take a little bit of work. We have to get some stormwater down to this area, but it is doable and it seems fairly straightforward.
Yeah, I'll continue on. Okay, so obviously with Jeff's servicing plan and kind of how we've laid it out, you know, at the end of the day, we're kind of thinking, you know, the cost per servicing, we would probably plus or minus a bit cover that off potentially with selling one of the lots. And then gain that back in potentially, and then also then have it hopefully a net profit with the other two lots being for sale. We have had interest in the past on these lots, on potentially of having lots, if we ever did develop them, but obviously we couldn't move forward until we decided on next steps with this way. We are recommending that because they are smaller lots that we are comfortable, we think, of just initially marketing them ourselves, put it on website, Facebook, those sort of things, initially see what the uptake is before we outsource, I would say, to get a realtor. I think we could comfortably initially sell them off, but again, we can reevaluate in the new year to see if we've had any movement on those lots. So yeah, so that's basically the report for council tonight. We'd like a discussion on the proposal if you like the layout and next steps, as well as price per acre, what council would be comfortable selling these lots at if we did move forward.
Okay, thank you for that work and that report. Questions from council. So I just want to be clear before I open up. So in your report, you indicate that the last parcel we sold for 450,000. That was just over 6 acres, and that was unserviced. Deputy Mayor Manders.
And just, what about the hydro? Would that be up to whoever purchases then for connection? Or is it right there? No issue? I mean.
Yeah, there is 3-phase power on Fallon Drive. It may have to be extended, but that would be up to the developer or the person who needs that power.
Gotcha. And then as far as the storm and stub and that sort of thing, I mean, I do like the look. I like that we're maintaining partially butted onto the Public Works Department. I think that's smart for future planning. It's just if we were to list them or tender them, then to service them, is that months away, or could be within a 6 months, or what would you, when we decide to potentially go to market with them, again, whether it be tender or that, would you recommend these are available in 6 months, 8 months, or a year? That's my question.
I'll be honest, through the mayor, I haven't got a timetable on that portion of it. I do know that if council wants to move this forward sooner than later, I can bring that information back to council. There's no reason why this should take any longer. It shouldn't, it should be a fairly straightforward project, but I can bring that back to council if we want more of a timetable on engineering it, securing a contractor and getting it in the ground.
But that'll be more yeah, I'll add in maybe some other stuff later, but yeah, that obviously we would want to, again, however we present this to potential buyers, obviously it'll be more important for the person listing it. But anyways, yeah, thank you.
Sorry. Yeah, Lisa?
I'll just jump in. Yeah, I think what the solution for that would be if someone did come in with an offer in the meantime, it would be conditional on servicing. That would be put in the agreement that, you know, we would have so much time to service. They would put in an offer as a service lot, and then we would put some conditions or parameters around that, whether it be, you know, they'll want it serviced in 6 months or 8 months, so that sort of thing. So that could be part of the agreements, purchase and sale as well.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Regan.
Thank you. Sorry. So we'd be okay selling it just as just one piece of property as opposed to three. We would, that would still be okay. Like that's if we went out to say tender, we would just say, this is the amount of, this is the property we have. We can divide it up or not divide it up. Right?
Yes, sorry, just a second. Yes, so yeah, Madam Mayor, I guess, yeah, at the end of the day, we're open to offers, right? If someone comes in and says, I want 2, then, you know, we can work with that right away. I think it's more of a first come, first serve, maybe. We have this acreage, if they want 1.5 and someone wants 2. I think we're still open to working with an offer that would come in. I think ideally it's nice to have them already kind of divided up for promotional purposes, I would think, that we have something that's concrete, that we say that we do indeed have these certain lots. But I think if someone came in like tomorrow and said, I want, you know, all 3 acres, it is what it is. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, Councillor Westman.
Yeah, I just, through you, Madam Mayor, I'm kind of curious about what it would cost per lot to service it. I mean, if we're looking at selling it as 3 lots or 2 and 1 or 3, I mean, obviously that would affect the servicing cost. So based on our previous sale, it was 75,000 an acre. We would obviously be looking at something, you know, more than that for these per acre. So I'm just wondering, what would it cost to service that? And I don't know if that's the number we can think about right now.
I don't know whether that's information we've got at this point, but Jeff?
Yeah, I think I can bring that again. That's because this is happening pretty quick. That would be information I can bring back to council. But I mean, based on just kind of averages, what we're seeing out there in 2024, you know, we're confident that you know, that we can bring it back for the cost of a lot. So that if we had 3 lots, one of it would bring enough money back to cover all the costs for servicing all 3, and allow the other 2 to be sold as serviced lots. And there, but again, I think we would bring back more defined numbers so that we're all aware of it. And I, you know, just want to make sure that we're interested in this proposal before I go any further and start going, you know, into a deep dive.
Yep, fair enough. Other questions or comments, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I do think the smaller lots probably be more sought after. I'm just thinking of the way we've sold, say, 3 of the properties, that are, you know, probably somewhat paraphrase or can get corrected by staff. We, and again, I don't know if they were bought by numbered companies or individuals, so I'll be careful on naming the individuals. Obviously, we had a very incentive price for people to build within 2 years and to operate at some form of a capacity, whether it be storage or whatever. And we saw obviously one group of people turn around and flip that and sell that, you know, at the lower price, you know, which is unfortunate because that wasn't the purpose for them to make that much profit. I don't feel turn around and flip it. Flip side is when I'll call it in play, when the one person that bought the property did not comply to our conditions. And when it came back into play, we put it on tender. And I believe that's the highest price we've gotten, was when we went for tender. When that went back into play, because you don't know it's in play until you go back there and market it. I look at this property here as probably the best exposure for businesses out of everything in the industrial park. I think there's probably some people that might still think that this property is not in play because it was, again, purchased, but then not, didn't comply to our terms. So I do, when I look at, we listed it to incentivize people to build. People have flipped it, made some good money. We've tendered it and did quite well in the tender. So my quick thoughts are, do we have anything to lose? Because in a tender, we don't have to accept it. We can wait for market conditions to change. If our thoughts are that maybe it would cover more than 2 lots being serviced, the amount. So my quick initial thoughts are, do we get it out there through the county, through Carafin, what Lisa said, get it out there that this property's back in play, three individual properties, and do we, it's the best potential value to see obviously what somebody would pay and market it as three individual lots. Is kind of what I'm thinking out loud as we've, our ratepayers own it. I'm trying to figure, with what we've experienced, that's been our best value for our ratepayers that own it, was when we tendered it. So.
And so would your suggestion be to tender it under staff's recommendation as serviced or unserviced?
I like the idea of the 3 service lots individually. So just saying, we are because again, if you could have 5 people come to the table at 120,000, 90, 80, buying, whatever they want to put in for whichever lot. You could have 5 people come in, whatever, but it would be serviced. Again, I don't know what Jeff's thoughts are on it. I believe Glavin, when he bought it unserviced, was because he wanted to be under his own timeline and worry about that himself. I certainly wouldn't be opposed of unserviced on a tender submission. If they don't, unless Jeff again doesn't like that. But then if they want to abide by their own timelines and then service it. But again, and then from that, if a tender didn't work out, we need to wait for market conditions to change, or it's not as valuable as we think, then we'd like to Lisa's point, then we could put it out there for sale, the 3 lots after the tender. That we didn't like what the ratepayers were getting for it. So.
Was there any discussion at the staff level about tendering it as opposed to marketing it?
No, actually, we kept it to just selling it on our own. Yep.
Any other questions or comments from council? Councillor Hodgins?
Thanks, Madam Mayor, through you. Just a couple comments. I think it makes good sense to keep the property abutting our public works yard there and just hang on to that for future use. And then, yeah, I think the 3 lots are good as well. But maybe depending on which approach we take, if it is going to kind of just go out there to the market and we kind of gauge the interest, I think it's good to kind of keep it open for different opportunities. If it is one large site development, or maybe somebody wants half of it, or maybe the 3 lots is kind of the most attractive. But I think it'd be good to, if we did put it out there, to have it flexible, and I guess the servicing can be flexible as well, and that we can do it, or it can be serviced. It'd just be interested just to see, I guess, what comes back, and then we can evaluate those options at that time. Yeah.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I like what you just said there. Like, would we go to market as an expression of interest? I don't know if that makes sense, what I'm saying. And then with that parcel, and someone has an expression of interest for 1 lot, and they would submit. And then if someone has an expression of interest for the whole thing, or 2 lots or 1 lot, then at least the town, would we again get it out there throughout the community of an expression of interest for this parcel? It's in play. Township staff's thoughts and council thoughts are 3 individual lots, but we're expecting, and again, we're still in the driver's seat to do the best for the ratepayers that own it. We're still in the best driver's seat for asking for expression of interest. That makes sense, or if that's the right terminology I'm using in the government world, but that's what I'm trying to do.
Rather than a formal tender.
And then I would, again, I could face the public with an expression of interest and accepting it. If we only, if there was interest out there for the whole property or an individual piece or staff, looking at comparables to what we've sold, obviously by, again, multiple ways. And we've got some comparables already that abut on. So again, if we have one expression of interest, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever that looks like, our staff would do what's best for creating the most value for us. And then that, to me, we could again speak to why we didn't accept any expression of interest, or why we proceeded with one and we're going to sever off the other 2 lots and list them or not. So yeah, at least it gives us something to work with. But
Lisa?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. I guess at the end of the expression of interest or letter of intent, not much different from agreement, purchase and sale. At the end of the day, they're putting an offer in on something. So I think we're just kind of changing terminologies a bit between the two, letter of intent versus agreement. Letter of intent's not as binding as an agreement, purchase and sale. So I think you can open it up to offers or letters of intent, or you tender. I think, yeah, I think those are your 2 options. And if someone comes in with a letter of intent in a month for a parcel, and then, that would come back to council, obviously, in camera consideration, and then you move forward on whether you accept that letter of intent and move forward or not. Not much different than the same thing, expression of interest, same thing. And so you can go that route, or you can just say, hey, you know what, we're tendering 3 lots and that's it. And I guess the other thing is too, to point out that if we do 3 lots, is one more favorable lot than the other, right? You've got a corner piece of property that's pretty, I would think, more valuable. Let's say if you call them like the corner's lot 1, so lot 1 would be more valuable than lot 2 and 3 in a visible way, like, because they have a corner, right? So that's something that council could consider, whether you could do that now, or you want to do that in some sort of letter of intent or offer that may come in the meantime. I know it's kind of hard because it's like you can't, like, one kind of depends on the other right now with servicing and that, but I think the best way, and like I said, if we move forward on the kind of that concept and then put that concept out, it's just whether or not we want to tender that concept or leave it open for offers, letter of intents.
Councillor Hodgins and Councillor Reagan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just kind of continuing on my previous comments, I think the main thing is just getting it out there, and whether it's, on our website, on our social media, definitely working with the county's economic development team and those channels that are already established, getting it out there. And I think, whatever we call it, letter of intents or offers, I think we just have to hear if there's interest in it and have these sort of conversations, and just, they don't have to go right into negotiations, but I guess what we have to establish as council is what's our expectation. Like, do we want, I guess staff's looking for direction on the number. We know our previous number. So do we want 100,000 an acre? Do we want more for the corner lot? I think these are things that we can give staff maybe a general sense, and then these kind of discussions can happen, and then information can come back to council and we can kind of discuss this as a group. I don't know if we have to have like a, deadline. We need offers by this date and then we get them, and I just don't know what's going to work best. But I think just getting it out there and starting to take some calls and inquiries and feelers and go from there.
Councillor Reagan?
That's basically what I was going to say. We need to get it out, see what it is, and then we have to establish, what's our expectation for what we want. If it's a corner lot, And again, it just, everything would be serviced. I mean, that just, we would go out there and there would be service lots, right? That would be our intent, is to say, we're gonna have all three of these lots will be serviced. We get that out there, but I agree. I think we need to get that out there. We need to establish what it is we need. I mean, there is one corner lot there that may be more attractive than all the others. So again, we have to kind of figure out what it is we would expect from that. So yeah, that's basically what I was gonna.
Thank you. I think if we're headed that way as opposed to tendering, I do think that we need more more information from Jeff to realistically the timeline, because that is key. You have somebody that shows up at the front desk, they're going to want to know, when is it going to be serviced? Or does that then become a negotiating thing? But I think you've made it clear, because of what is already there, you want us to control the servicing. You've made that, to me, very clear. Yeah.
Yeah, and then just a follow-up comment on that. I would like to bring a report back to council with that information, as long as we've got an indication that council is interested in a serviced land there, and we're recommending kind of looking at 3 lots. I could bring a report based on that, with costs and a timetable, and I'm, I don't want to get into it tonight, but I think the report would touch on the advantages of a serviced lot and the services in that area.
Okay. I think that's what kind of need to go forward. Certainly the cost, because again, if we're going with what staff was proposing, and that we're going to say that the first lot's going to pay for the servicing of all 3. We need to know what the cost of the servicing is. So that makes sense. And that corner lot, I mean, servicing has nothing to do with that corner lot. It's like the corner office. It's just the corner lot on that, its location. So I'm quite comfortable moving forward in the process and getting Jeff to bring a report back. Deputy Mayor, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, it just seems like potential we're delaying, like potentially that, like our best price we've got is when we haven't determined it. So if we're going to sit here publicly and determine it, that's been our worst. Okay. So that's when we've done the lease. So I like the idea of 3 lots. I like the idea of getting it out there and putting it out there, accepting whatever term we want to use. Lot 1, 2, or 3 up till December 1st. In the meantime, Jeff I would think would connect 3 stubs. You'd have an idea of pricing, like we did for all the other lands. We go in camera and we look at the offers, and we go, to service a lot is, Jeff was way off. It's 80,000 a lot, and it's going to cost 240,000 to sever it. And we're getting offers of 100 grand a lot. And we still, with the tax base we would get, and now we still probably wouldn't sit on it and hold it and do nothing anyways. So again, that's the best pricing we've got is when we haven't determined it. And to me, today I'd be in favor of going with the staff's plan of doing 3 lots, going out, asking for expressions of interest, offers even. And again, it's ours to turn down, and it's ours to control still. And in the meantime, Jeff works on the costing, and then we see. Or we've already determined that one corner lot is, and I do agree with that. I think it's better for the business. Well, if someone submits an offer that we don't mind the offer, we may say, listen, for that price, we're going to go to market though, now that we've kind of got some parameters. Or if you want to slide into lot 1. But I don't like, again, and I guess one other, so again, and then one other question was, are we going to set the same parameters that, again, shovel in the ground under 2 year? Yeah. So it's the same brand, and they'll strongly know that we would buy it back. Yeah. Like we've done in the past. So anyways, those are my comments.
I appreciate that. I appreciate those comments, Deputy Mayor Manders. But yeah, those were good. Okay. Councillor Hodgins.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Maybe a question to Jeff, just when it comes to servicing, because I think he mentioned the low pressure sanitary line going down Fallon Drive. So it's not gonna be, well, maybe each lot might need individual grinder pump systems that pump into this pressure pipe. Like it's not a standard gravity sanitary sewer system. So I'm just wondering, we might not know how to service these lots until we really know what's coming in, unless we're locking ourselves into 3 lots and we put in 3 grinder pump systems for those lots. I'm just thinking like, then we're kind of closing the door to, I guess, if there is one really large, or, you know, it's 2 lots, maybe is the best arrangement, or it depends on what works for them. I just think we have to keep the door open a little bit, and maybe we figure out the servicing at, you know, a high level, but I think we can't really put the cart before the horse. And maybe we have to know what is coming, what is going to happen before we get it serviced. But I think if we have all our ducks in a row, then once we have the opportunity to sell the lots or have some businesses come in, then we should be able to move pretty quickly with it. But I don't know, Jeff has anything to add to that, or if that makes sense or?
Just, yeah, that's a really good comment, Madam Mayor, and we view it like we base the Heenan Court lots, so that we bring a low force main stub into each lot with a valve. So, and then each lot then can connect their unit to that stub with a grinder system. So that this is the exact same what is on Heenan Court now. And then we will be able to put the volumes that it can take. Then we can give that parameters to what the building's built. If there's a concern that we want an industry that is going to use a higher flow to the plant, we still have the option of the property on the other side of Heenan Court, closer to the plant. If there was a like an industry that wanted to come in and have a higher flow, then maybe what we're looking at in this area of a low flow type system. But that certainly is, that is a comment by Councillor Hodgins that if we do service it with a low flow, we are restricting the type of industry that can go in there. Is that I'm not trying to cloud up the issues, but.
No, understood. Okay, so are there any other comments or questions? Staff is looking for direction. So I would turn to council. Yep.
But yeah, I mean, to have the option of 1, 2, or 3, or have proposals come in so we can see them if someone's interested in 2 lots or 1 lot, to me, it's, I don't mind that at all. That they obviously will talk to staff, and staff could say, yep, you know, we would take proposals for up to this property or potentially 3 lots, whatever you'd like to submit, and see if we get anybody. We might get nobody. I have no idea. And then in the meantime, because I think it is important to know our costs, obviously, on the servicing, but at the end of the day, it's still, you know, if the servicing was 25 grand and we set the lot price at 75,000 and someone's willing to give us 100,000, we've done the owners no good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, that's to me is, again, if we get a good number from Jeff, does that mean we all think we want a lower price for the lot?
Yeah. No, I understood. Yeah.
Like, I hope not. So, and if we get a higher price on that, then the value of that is what someone's willing to pay, which we need to find out. So that's why I would be in favor of promoting this as a 1, 2, or 3 parcel property out for bid, and accept bids at whatever date that can get out there properly, and throughout social media and through the county, as Jaden said, and then we discuss that, obviously, like we have in the past in camera.
Okay.
I don't know, I mean, that's.
So yeah, so further to that, what I would probably recommend then is for the next meeting, Jeff can have I shouldn't put words in his mouth, but hopefully for the next meeting, we can have some costs on services. I would suggest maybe hold off, let's say, publishing anything or putting out there that we're selling anything until you get a handle on what the servicing cost would be, if you're comfortable with that, or do you want me to put it out and there's 3 service lots for sale as of Wednesday, and then see what comes in. I would think maybe we want to see what, so you get a better handle on what the servicing costs are, if that matters at the end of the day. So I guess that's the decision on what your next steps will be for letting people know these are available, and how do
Well,
you want those steps?
I
to
almost
happen?
think if we don't, if we want to see what the offers are, or like you put it out and like the market will determine what people are going to want to pay. But is that better than through a tendered process? Like, I don't know, like.
I don't care what the servicing costs. I care at the time when we decide to accept the offer and we minus our expenses. And I'm gonna be a little bit sarcastic. If it costs $100,000 to service and we're getting $50,000 offers, that becomes pickleball courts you drive to. I don't know. But I'm just like, I mean, I don't care what the servicing is. I care at accepting it. So again, it's not a guarantee that we're gonna accept it. It's to be considered however it's rolled up. We need to know that cost when we accept an offer. There definitely, I mean, right now, we need to know the highest dollar we can get for these, for the residents, and then subtract the costs and decide if we accept it, or does it just become part of the public works building? Because if servicing and what we can get for this is like 30 grand a lot, I'll probably be throwing up my hand that this just stays with the public works. So we need, the servicing doesn't matter to me as much as how much we're gonna get minus that at the time of our decision. Because if again, if we're making 25 grand a lot, I would definitely put in my hand up that just stays with Public Works.
Okay. Okay. Any other comments based on what Deputy Mayor has? I do appreciate your perspective on that. That's given me a different way of looking at it, for sure. So the question to council then is, the direction to give to Lisa is whether council's in line with the thinking of the deputy mayor, whether you want the servicing, and then again, do you just put it out as we're accepting however it's worded? Or do you want to go to tender? Those are the things that need to be considered that have been brought up tonight.
So I guess what I could do is so expression of interest or tender is the same thing. I think we've determined. Or
No,
what's
I
easier? What's
think
easier
Lisa
than
felt that the expression of interest
Yeah.
was maybe the same as an offer purchase and
offer
sale.
purchase?
Or
of
letter,
intent. Yeah, I got no problem going to, again, how offering this parcel of land. That again, whether it be being offered as 3 pieces, 2 pieces, 1 piece. So maybe it does have to be, I don't know legality. So we probably may have talked to the lawyer. I don't know, and put it out there for us to consider whatever entrepreneur out there or business wants to give us. In the meantime, I think Jeff can get an idea, to Jaden's point, like on just, I think if it's general contractors and that, and it's low, servicing those lots, then, the servicing all 3, that's what I'd ask Jeff to get pricing on. And then that way, if we get offers, then we can again determine that. And obviously if the offers we get don't align with the servicing Jeff's provided, then again, we're in the driver's seat that we need to tell the buyer that we don't know our costs. So we can't again accept this. So because we need to know our cost on servicing. But the cost on servicing again doesn't matter to me as much as how much someone's willing to pay, subtract it, see the value. Because if there's little value in that, it stays with Public Works for my vote. If we're gonna make 10 grand a lot. So.
Okay, any other comment on? So you were gonna make a motion?
Make a motion. I'll make a motion that we that we give direction to Lisa, I guess, if we have to give the timeline, I just, if, I don't know, but I'd be fine with a couple months or a month and a half or 6 weeks that this property is now in play, that we are accepting offers of interest or I think, offers of interest for 1, 2, or 3 parcels, and to submit to submit by whatever date. In the meantime, Jeff has got to be, because I won't speak for Jeff's time, Jeff has to be satisfied that he'll have servicing numbers so that when we go in camera to look at that or review it with Lisa, that we know our costs and we know that. So.
I wonder about putting a date on it, because then again, are you essentially, are you setting that up as more of a tender?
Then I think we should, then, because if we don't do it as a tender process, then for any portion of that land, 1, 2, 3, or 2 lots or 1 lot, then it takes away from what Councillor Hodgins would like to see. Because I think Councillor Hodgins, which I agree with, is saying, why go out for tender on 3 lots? If somebody wants 2, then let them take 2. And if it's 1, it's 1. So then if it's a tender process for that lot for whichever amount you want to take, I guess, but the minimum amount being the 1 acre lot, the minimum amount being that 1.2. And then I would say that it should read, that times 2, that times 3. And that would be what you can submit for 1, 2, or all 3. But I just, I don't know.
I guess then the problem is that when you open tenders, all of a sudden you have someone, I guess you have someone submitting for 3, someone submitting 1, someone for 2. How do you just take, if lot 1 has a higher tender per acre, but yet someone wants to buy all 3, it's low, the apples and oranges, it won't really line up for evenly, I think, evaluating each tender brought in. I think almost you have to say it's going to be 1.25, and if they want to buy 1.25, 1.25, but they can't put in for 3, because then that's someone who puts in for 1.5. It'll just mess everything up. It'd be hard to compare everything.
Yeah, I never thought of that. Then someone could submit a bid for like we put it out for 3 and someone could buy 2.
Yeah.
And obviously if or it can be determined on the, yep, gotcha. So anyways, I like the idea, obviously, of hopefully generating new tax revenue, getting that money, it's just sitting there into our reserves. So I definitely am in favor of moving forward with this if it makes business sense. And so I see exactly what Lisa's saying. And if somebody wants to buy 2 or 3 or 1, then at least that gives them the option. And then I'd make that motion to proceed with that. Lisa, is there any timeline in this motion that I should say that you would put this out to market till? Would you say December 1st, or what would you say?
Yeah, I think.
Or council?
I think maybe definitely it's for the next meeting, then we can bring the servicing and then a proposal for tendering
Okay.
process.
Oh, gotcha. And then
I think we can package that together probably for the next meeting. That we can do that together.
Yeah, sorry.
as
So we don't
one
have to decide
package.
that tonight.
Yeah.
What we could do is, the next meeting, you'll talk to Jeff, and obviously the date that we accept it, Jeff would before that have servicing numbers. Okay.
Okay.
That to be voted on next meeting.
Okay, but we have to give direction through a motion so that the staff's going to come back with what the tendering process will look like. To go with 3 lots right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Deputy Mayor and Councillor Reagan. Any further comment? Councillor Hodgins.
Sorry, I was just gonna clarify what our motion is exactly, or?
We're sitting in.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Just the.
Just the bottom, yeah, so this is what it, that council directs staff to bring back a report at the next meeting with details of a tendering process for 3 industrial park lots and the servicing costs of each. It's just, that's,
Just a comment, I'm wondering if I bring back the servicing costs for different options of 1, 2, or 3 lots, or do you want me to bring back servicing costs just for the 3 lots?
I think you just bring back the servicing for 3 lots, because to Councillor Hodgins' point, again, we don't know what might be going in. So I think we need, at this stage, it's just that basic understanding of what servicing is, right? Because again, depending on what somebody might want to put in there, could be quite different, right? But I think, yeah.
something
work?
to add. Councillor Hodgins.
Yeah, thank you. No, I think it sounds good. Like I think, you know, staff has given us some indication of what they think their servicing costs would be ballpark, and I think that's, you know, roughly the cost of 1 lot. So they've already done some assessment there, that I think is fine. I was just gonna say with the wording in the motion, do we want to say like on specifically tender, or do we just want to say like sale, like the process for sale or process for tender? Because then we're kind of like, I don't know if we want to look at different options or have staff think about it a bit more and bring back, you know, this is what we think is the best option, or these are the various options.
So bring back,
Tender or
bring back the
or
options for sale of the parcels.
okay. I've got one
Options.
options for next options for sale. Or
Yeah, I'm just thinking, just so we're not
Yeah.
strictly locking ourselves into tendering right now.
my biggest thing is at the end of this is that again, that we that obviously that we do not have to accept what we see
No.
on the offer. So we don't have to accept it. Again, if the servicing cost to what somebody's willing to pay today, and it makes more sense to leave it with the industrial park till the climate changes, and so be it. So the key is, again, is that we're not we're not bound. So yeah.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded, but we're going to amend it. So
With options for sale process of 3 industrial park lots and servicing costs of each.
okay. So though, because it's been moved and seconded, how do we withdraw it?
Yes, and you press the motion to withdraw.
And then, okay. No, it would be just withdraw and then a new motion put on the floor, right?
Yes.
Okay, so motion to withdraw it.
No,
I think he's got.
yeah, I might have to. I don't know.
Yeah, Deputy Mayor Manders and Councillor Regan. So all in favor to withdraw the motion? And so then the new motion is? Yeah.
Yep.
The council directs staff to bring back a report at the next meeting with details regarding sale options for 3 industrial park lots and servicing costs of each.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Manders. Councillor Regan. Oh, yeah, it wasn't. Deputy Mayor Manders, Councillor Regan. Any further discussion? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, staff, for your patience on that. Okay, councillor comments. Councillor Regan.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I know it's a little bit late, but I have been asked to just to make a comment from Lee Robertson, who's the head librarian next door. And she would ask me to just bring this information to council and to the townships, is that the team, and she's read the team at the Lucan Library would like to share the results of their 2024 Summer at the Library program with council and the community of Lucan BIddulph at large. Summer program incentives and prize winning opportunities to participants were in 3 age categories: 2 to 12, 3 to 17, and 18 to 118. The purpose of the program is to promote reading is fun, rewarding manner, and hopefully discourage the summer slide of literacy schools for new readers who find reading to be somewhat demanding. So in keeping with the program's woodland theme, the participants from the age 2 to 12 category worked with the librarians in creating a life-size tree inside the library. And for each day of reading that the children logged, they received a paper leaf to help with the cause. Happily, by the completion of the 7-week program, the tree sported more than 3,000 leaves and grew to an impressive 9 feet tall and 20 feet across. And she says it was a truly impressive sight. Between all 3 age categories, the Lucan Library reported an amazing 425 participants in the program, which was huge. In addition to the Summer at the Library program, the librarians also hosted 27 additional programs for all ages, including everything from a Mario Kart tournament to a do-it-yourself cupcake decorating. So quite a variety. The Lucan Library team would like to thank their community partners at Domino's Pizza Lucan for providing free pizza coupons for those who completed the program, and Les McDonald Installations for the tree building supplies. I would also like to thank the library volunteers, the educators, the parents, and the caregivers for their help with making the program a resounding success. And finally, they would like to send a huge thank you to all the participants of all ages to supported programs. And they say that we had as much fun joining as they did hosting. And just as a side note, I participated and I read 94 hours over the summer, and then didn't win anything, but it was all part of it. I learned a lot though. So
It's not about winning, Councillor Regan.
yes, ma'am.
Thank you for sharing that. Congratulations to Lee and her team at the library. I've had opportunity to speak to Lee various times over the summer, and she certainly was very enthusiastic about participation. So congratulations to her. Thank you for sharing that. Any other councillor comments? Councillor Westman.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I just wanted to thank our flower team. I know the flowers will be taken out right after Thanksgiving, that'll be before our next meeting. So I just wanted to say thank you. It was amazing work this year as usual, and I'm a little impressed with the how well the flowers grew in spite of the weird weather we had this year. So a lot of good work there. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Yes, I think we can all be very proud of the team that Jeff's put together for the flowers. Any other councillor comments? I don't have a councillor comment, but a question for Lisa, and I hate to put her through this after the last report. I'm just wondering, and at some point, and like, doesn't have to be next meeting, but if we could get an evaluation of our communication plan, in that we have this communication plan. I think we've had it now for about 18 months. How is it? Has it been that long? I think. No, really? Maybe a year. Anyways, how is it working? What are you finding? Successes, things we could do better, that sort of thing. Okay. Okay, with that, we have a number of bylaws in front of us. So there's one motion, and it has to do with the drain that we discussed tonight. And that motion will be on its own because it just gets first and second reading tonight. So the motion in front of us is that bylaw 47-2024 be read a first and second time. Councillor Hodgins and seconder Councillor Regan. All in favor? And that's carried. And then the next bylaw is that if no one cares to speak to bylaws 43 2024 through 46 2024 inclusive, and bylaw 48 2024 on their first, second, and third reading, that they be considered to have been read a first time and passed, read a second time and passed, read a third time and passed. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Westman and Deputy Mayor Manders, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And resolved that the council meeting be adjourned at 11 minutes after 9. A mover and a seconder. Councillor Regan and Councillor Westman, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. I guess we will see you in a couple weeks after Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving.